I can have one of our online test their microphones for us.
This is
Testing.
Dana. Oh, sorry. Dana
Yay.
testing. Can
All
you hear
right,
me?
thank you. We just needed a restart. That's all.
We're all clapping. We can hear you. Oh, and the microphone's working. This is very exciting. We have a go. All right, so we had a roll call. We are now at the approval of the January 26th meeting minutes.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Ileana.
Second.
Thank you, Daniela. We need a roll call vote because we're hybrid. So if we could go through the roll call.
All right, Tom Adams,
Yes.
Vo,
Yes.
Lillian Perez Avila,
Yes.
Karen Chapman,
Yes.
Eddie Flores,
Aye.
Jacqueline Faust,
Yes.
Roseanne Faust,
Yes.
Lynette Garcia,
Yes.
Mark Hayslip, Nathan Healy, currently absent, Dana Johnson,
Dana Johnson present, virtual.
Daniela Jontitude,
Aye.
Jim Lawrence,
Yes.
Julie Lind,
Julie Lynn is currently in the chat asking to be added as a panelist. No problem.
All right, let's go ahead and try Julie Lind. Loading her. All right, Julie Lind.
Julie, you are now a panelist. Can you?
So I'm still present. Hi, thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
All right, Monica Mija.
Okay.
Okay, Ileana Rodriguez,
Yes.
George Smith, currently absent, Kathleen Wheeler,
Yes. Yes.
and Kimberly Wu.
Present.
So the minutes of January 26th are approved. We are moving on to general public comment. And this is for an opportunity for members of the public to address the committee on any committee-related topics that not are on the agenda. If your subject's not on the agenda, the chair will recognize you at this time. So are there any members of the public that would like to comment? I'm not seeing any hands and there is no one in the room. So we are moving on to the presentation of recommendations. And before I start, Mark Hayslip, one of the committee members, handed out, he taught business administrative law through the Masters in Public Administration at Notre Dame de Namur in Belmont. And so he gave us a great one-page analysis of ordinances, resolutions, and proposals to more center folks as we're thinking about our discussion going forward. Mark, would you want to comment any further? I just thought this was a good time to bring it up.
Masters in Public Administration at Notre Dame was a program for people that are in public administration. And this was kind of a format on how to analyze the things that they have to put in staff reports. And for this purpose, it's kind of a focus on the issues we need to address to make a decision here.
Thank you, Mark. So we are moving on to item number 4, presentation of the recommendations, and I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
Good evening, everyone. Brian Pettit, Deputy with the County Attorney's Office. And you will be receiving one more presentation from me before you get down to your work of identifying which issues the committee is going to be focusing on. And what I would like to do is answer a few questions that I got and provide a little more context on what the county's home rule authority actually is. One question I got was, well, what do we mean when we say that the county charter focuses on the structure and operation of the county? So I'd like to give a little more information on that. I want to give an overview of what is currently in the county charter, and then I will present again the issues identified by the individual supervisors and answer any questions you have. I know that several members had suggestions for issues, and what I'm hoping this presentation does is sort of helps you to focus your conversation about which issues you're going to be looking at, and to give you a sense both at what types of issues are legally appropriate for a county charter and also things that are consistent with the structure and logic of county charters, both San Mateo and typically how they are structured. So with that, Kim, do I need to? Uh-oh. No. Sorry. Okay. I got it. So first, like I said, I received a question. What exactly do you mean when you talk about home rule authority, when you talk about the county charter focusing on structure and operation? So home rule is the authority of the people to create and operate their own local government and to define the powers of that government. As I mentioned last week, home rule authority for counties is a little bit different than home rule authority for cities. This is a quote right from the California Supreme Court. Charter county home rule authority is limited to matters concerning the structure and operation of local government. And where that comes from is from the Constitution itself. So I gave sort of my own gloss on what the Constitution says. I'm going to give you something much closer to what the actual language is because I think it's helpful to see what the Constitution actually authorizes to be included in county charters. The California Constitution provides that charter counties shall provide for a governing body of 5 or more members, right? That's our Board of Supervisors. The compensation, terms, and removal of members of the Board of Supervisors, an elected sheriff, an elected DA, an elected assessor, other officers, their election or appointment, compensation, terms, and removal. The performance of functions required by statute. So typically counties only have those powers that are expressed or implied by state law. And so if there's a statute that says the county shall perform X function, the charter is able to address the performance of that function. The charter can address the powers and duties of the board. Or I'm sorry, I should clarify. It shall address the powers and duties of the board and other county offices, and for the consolidation or segregation of county offices, and for the manner of filling all vacancies. Here I want to highlight F. It provides that it shall include regulation by ordinance of the appointment and number of assistants, deputies, clerks, attachés, and other persons to be employed, their powers, deputies, compensation, terms, and manner of appointment or removal. So generally, it directs counties to include a personnel section in that charter that is implemented by ordinance. And so that's something I'm going to be repeating in this presentation, is that there are things that are appropriate to be included in a charter, and then there are things that are contemplated to be implemented at a lower level. So through ordinance, through resolutions, through policymaking. And then this catch-all at the bottom here, the powers provided by Constitution and statute. So what this means is that when we are looking from a legal perspective about what is appropriate to be included in a county charter, it has to be something that's either listed in the Constitution, so one of these things that is listed, or something that is separately authorized by statute. There are limitations. So the county charter, even if you're doing something that is authorized either by by that provision of the Constitution we just looked at, or by other general state law, the rule is that generally the county supersedes the general state law, unless it's otherwise limited by the Constitution. So if the Constitution says you can't do something, you can't put it into the county charter. If it imposes additional requirements, kind of vague language, but I'll give you some examples of what that is. And these last two are important. So if the state law is a matter of statewide concern and the state law occupies the field, so if it fully covers that subject matter, then the county charter can't intrude into that area. It's also, the state law supersedes or preempts the county's authority on matters related to, that are of a statewide concern, and they're so important that they can't be considered a municipal affair anymore. So if there's something that's a statewide concern, super important, the county's not able to regulate it through its charter. So some examples. These are both from case law. So county charters, what is something that you could do consistent with the constitutional restrictions on county charters? The county charter can provide for the removal of an elected officer for cause. That's something the county obviously just went through. The court in that case was looking both at that constitutional provision we just talked about, but also there's a separate statute that talks about the board being responsible for the supervision of officers. So in that case, it was both inherent to the Constitution, but also there was separate statutory authority for that provision. The creation of a civilian review board, that's something that can be put into the charter. Again, there's a statute directly on point that talks about the board's ability to create citizen commissions, to review those public officers created by the charter. So things that exceed the board's or the county's authority to amend the charter. These two are from Attorney General opinions, but I think they are instructive. So one is, well, what if you put something into the county charter that says the county's not allowed to impose a tax rate above X%? The Attorney General looked at that and said, that's something that's beyond the county's authority to do. The county cannot incapacitate itself to perform functions delegated to it by the state. So there is a series of state laws as well as provisions in the Constitution that address taxation. The county charter can't limit itself to perform that function. There was another proposal where the county charter was going to be amended to say, county, you are not allowed to approve development projects unless there's a demonstrable method that exists for financing facilities to serve that project. Again, this is the AG, but they say that is beyond the scope of what a county can do in its charter. There's again, a whole series of state law that governs the approval of development projects. And this, again, this is the language that I highlighted earlier. This additional requirement is not authorized. So that goes beyond what a county can do in its charter. One more. So limiting the number of consecutive terms that an elected county official may serve. Again, this is one where the court was looking at that issue of, can you impose additional requirements? And what the court concluded was that this was an unauthorized additional qualification for candidacy. The county charter couldn't say an elected officer cannot run after 2 terms. It can do other things. It can set compensation, terms of removal, but you can't add additional requirements for the candidacy to those offices. As many of you, I'm sure you're aware, there are term limits for county supervisors. That is separately authorized by statute. So this was a case where the county charter was limiting other elected officials, and the court said that exceeds the authority of the county charter. Okay. So that is just a high level sort of review of what, from a legal perspective, is appropriate for a county or for a charter, and things that sort of exceed that authority. Okay, so I wanted to give you an overview of the San Mateo County Charter. This is the document that you are being asked to review, asked to consider amendments to, and really the goal of this is just to give you a sense of what level of issues are addressed in the county charter, sort of historically. What are the issues related to the structure and operation of the county that have been included in the county charter, to give you, again, a sense of what typically goes into a county charter and what is typically more appropriate for kind of a lower level implementation of of county policy. So really quickly, we have Article 1. This just incorporates general law. It says general law governs elections, and electors have the power of the initiative, referendum, recall, charter amendment pursuant to general law. There's really nothing new here. It just says elections and these other electoral matters are governed by the California state law, general law. The Board of Supervisors, Article 2, we have a 5-member Board of Supervisors elected by district. There's a residency requirement. And as I mentioned, we have term limits on supervisors. The charter sets forth a process for filling vacancies on the board, provides that supervisors are ineligible for appointment to county offices where they'll be receiving compensation for a year after they leave office. It provides that regular meetings have to be set by ordinance, and it sets forth general powers and duties of the board. Those are things like, so it says the board shall appoint and annually review the performance of the CEO, appoint members to boards, commissions, etc. Just generally adopt an annual budget. Provide for the number, powers, and duties of all appointed officers and employees, set the compensation of the board by ordinance, and then provide for the publication of powers, duties, procedures, and rules of operation of all county offices and departments. The board is authorized under the charter to do some additional stuff. So that is create, abolish, consolidate, segregate, assign, or transfer the powers and duties of any appointed office, department, division, board, or commission. So again, the charter itself does not create departments within the county. What it does is it authorizes the board to do that, usually through ordinance or through some other lower level implementation process. The board appoints the clerk, requires financial reports, audits county offices, and provides for the hiring. Oh, sorry, this is one that's really quite. I think it goes back all the way to when the charter was initially adopted in the 30s, but provides for the hiring of unemployed persons under federal or other special programs to relieve unemployment. So again, pretty high level types of things that are within the general powers and duties of the Board of Supervisors. There's a section on the county executive, provides for their appointment and removal, what to do in the case of a vacancy, how to set compensation, requires that it be the CEO's exclusive employment. Again, generally addresses what the duties of the CEO are, and then requires attendance at Board of Supervisors meetings. There's a section on department heads, boards, and commissions. Again, I want to highlight this. What it says is that the powers and duties of department heads, boards, and commissions are set by ordinance, right? They have those powers set by county ordinance. It's not in the charter, but it's ultimately approved by the board through ordinance. They also have the power provided to them by general law and by the charter. This section identifies which public offices the county has, specifies whether they're elected or appointed, provides for the terms of public offices, what to do in the case of vacancies, and for the removal of the elected sheriff for cause. Department heads under the charter are designated by ordinance. And then again, there are just some general requirements for boards and commissions, such as setting a residency requirement and ways to waive that requirement. And then terms and qualifications, not in the charter. Charter provides that those are set separately by the board through ordinance. As I mentioned, there has to be a section on personnel. So Article 5 addresses personnel in the county. There's a statement of policy that appointment and promotion will be on a merit-based, through a merit-based process, and also commitment to equal opportunity in employment at the county. It establishes the Civil Service Commission, provides some general procedures for hearings and appeals to that commission. It specifies which employees are classified versus unclassified. That means employees that enjoy the benefits of civil service protections. It specifies that conflict of interest laws apply to employees, prohibits nepotism in oversight of subordinates, and prohibits puts certain restrictions on employee political activities. Like those, just to clarify, just because that's vague, just to be clear, it restricts political activities during your county time, while you're on the clock. Again, just high level. There is a section on finance, and what it says is that state general law governs property assessment, taxation, and the county budget. So there's a County Budget Act, right, that requires the county to annually adopt a budget or biannually adopt a budget. What the charter says is that general law is going to control that process. This article establishes the Office of Controller. It requires the board to conduct annual audits and reports on the county's financial transactions. Again, it doesn't regulate travel expenses. What it says is that there shall be a travel expense policy that's set by ordinance. It's part of my theme here of this presentation. The structure and the logic of the charter is that it has historically focused on sort of these high level structural issues, and then provides the board that authority to go implement those things by ordinance. And there is a local preference for county products policy in this section as well. Last ones, there is a judiciary article. It just provides, again, nothing added to state law. The court system is governed by general law. And then the last article is identified as general. It sets forth this process that we're engaging in tonight, that the charter is reviewed every 8 years. And then severability means that if any individual provision of the charter is found to be unconstitutional, then the rest of it remains in place. Okay. I'm going to pause there and ask if there are any questions so far about what I've covered.
Yes, Tom.
Early on in your presentation, you had a section of the government code that indicated that the county had authority to, I think, remove officers for cause. And maybe I didn't understand that correctly, but I would like to. And I'm wondering whether or not that the county board has that power with respect to the 3 officers who are currently elected, but whom we may consider whether or not they should be appointed. Does the board have the power to remove one of those officers for cause?
Oh, okay. So I'm going to go back to.
It was near the beginning of your presentation.
So this slide identifies the provisions of the California Constitution about what is included in a county charter. And so if you look at C, it says it provides for an elected sheriff, an elected district attorney, an elected assessor, their officers, other officers, their election or appointment, compensation, terms, and removal. And so courts have interpreted this provision of the Constitution to allow county charters to provide for the removal of elected officers for cause. And so the county currently has, where is it? Gosh, sorry. So again,
yeah, that's the section I was wondering about.
So the government code section that I'm referring to is addresses the board's responsibility to supervise public officers, both elected officers and appointed officers. And so the case that held that county boards of supervisors do have the authority to enact amendments to their charter to allow the removal of elected officers for cause. part of what they were looking at in that case was this statutory section that requires the supervision of officers. But it's not required to be in the charter, right? It just authorizes, the case law authorizes a county to provide for the removal of elected officers for cause. And so the county's current charter provides for the board to remove the elected sheriff for cause. And one of the issues that you'll be discussing tonight is whether the committee should look at removing the current sunset provision in that provision of the charter. So
Right.
currently,
I understand that, but I just, with respect to the treasurer, the controller, and the coroner, currently they cannot be removed for cause by the board.
currently the county charter only provides for the removal of the elected sheriff for cause.
But the county, if it wanted to, it has the authority to impose, to allow the removal of one of these elected officers for cause by amending the charter.
The case law,
And one of the members online, could you talk into the microphone so that they can hear
Sorry.
better? Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
the short answer is yes. The case that upholds a board's authority to have a charter provision that allows removal of an elected officer for cause is not limited to a specific office. It just it generally applies to elected officers.
Could I ask a follow-up then? So if the charter could provide for that, does it give the board the authority to define what the meaning of cause is?
It does. So both the county's current provision in the county charter that provides for the authority to remove the elected sheriff for cause, both defines what for cause means and also ensures due process in that process. And the case that supports that also emphasizes the need for those things.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Thank
Brian.
you, Tom. Mark?
Yeah, thank you. Brian, in the, I think it's 135-year history of the county. So does that sound about right? 135 years?
59.
Has anyone other than the recent unpleasantness been removed for cause?
Not to my knowledge. I'm not a county historian, but as far as I know, the only time that the county charter has included a provision allowing for the removal of an elected officer for cause is when it was recently amended. So I suspect that the answer is no.
Tom, and then Eddie.
I just want to say that I'm not advocating anything in particular at this point in time. I'm just trying to understand the legal framework.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Eddie?
Brian, as I was looking at the charter, referring to page 7 and 8, can you clarify? So 402 says assessor, county clerk, recorder, and 405 is a county clerk recorder. However, I did not find chief elections officer. So is that an appointment, that section of the role? Because we know the assessor, and we know it's also called the county recorder, but where does the chief elections officer? I did not see that.
So the elections function is assigned to the assessor, county clerk, recorder. I'm not sure what form it takes, but that's not in the charter itself. That's something where the board delegated that responsibility. It's either by ordinance, by resolution, but that is, I'm not going to go back to it, but there's one of the provisions of the Constitution says the board can, by ordinance, establish departments, assign responsibilities. And so the elections function is delegated to that officer, not in the charter, but through implementing ordinance or resolution.
Thanks for clarifying. Thank you.
And perhaps we can just ask her, when was the elections portion assigned to the assessor clerk recorder. It doesn't have to be tonight, but I think it would be
For
helpful.
context, I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam
to
Chair.
know.
Yeah, I'd be happy to
Thank you.
get that information
Ryan.
for you.
Are there any questions from folks online? I don't see any hands up. So a lot of what Brian has gone over to this point will actually make a lot more sense as we go through the Board of Supervisors recommendations, the committee recommendations. It was important to set the context going into the next portion of our meeting. So, because we're going to refer back to some of the things that he talked about. I think that's important to know.
Great.
Everybody's looking a little confused. I'm pretty confused. The charter is 16 pages. So I would encourage all charter committee members, print out a copy, read it. You're going to need to read it more than once. Probably about 18 times and then some. So, and highlight sections of it. Because even though it's only 16 pages, I mean, it is our Constitution. But it's worth it to have a look because then you can kind of connect the dots. So seeing no other questions, then Brian is going to move to 4B, which is the presentation of recommendations for charter amendments for the committee to consider. First, from the Board of Supervisors, and then actually that's still a part of 4A. The 6 from the Board of Supervisors that came to us, there were no additional ones. And then the second part, 4B, is for each of the committee members who sent in suggested items to discuss for the charter. We'll each have time to explain what they mean. And then if there's any additional recommendations from the floor.
Great. So these slides I went over last week, but now that you've had some time to see the recommendations, had a little more time to think about it, and also in the context of this presentation, I'm going to go through them again and see if anybody has any questions. So again, this is what the board directed, that the 2026 Charter Review Committee shall consider any changes to the county charter as authorized by the Constitution and state law, which in the committee's opinion are appropriate. So again, this ties back to my earlier comment, which is if it's going to be in the charter, it has to be authorized either by the Constitution or by state law. How do we decide what to include? The board wanted this committee to decide what's appropriate. But individual supervisors did submit recommendations. And I do want to, I suspect that this is clear to the committee members, but I do want the record to be clear that these individual issues did not come as recommendations to amend the county charter, right? It wasn't from a supervisor saying, I think the county charter should be amended to do X, Y, Z. At this point, these were recommendations to your committee to consider whether to look into them further and to come back to the board with a recommendation. I think that distinction was potentially lost by some, but I want to be clear that that's the nature of these recommendations is the recommendations for you to consider, right? Whether to pursue. So the first one I've referenced a few times. Currently, county charter provides for the removal of the elected sheriff for cause. That provision is set to sunset at the end of 2028. The question is, should you consider whether to remove that sunset provision? And I'll just note here that I know that the committee received some additional context on these first 4 issues. And so that's available for your reference, but I'm available to answer any questions on this. All right, seeing none.
Specifically of the documentation that was sent to us, what is it this set of information that gives greater context?
So District 2.
From District 2.
That's
President-
me. It was just additional notes in case it was wanted, but it's mine are provided earlier in a more succinct manner, I believe.
So I think there's two different sections. So we have, if I'm not mistaken, the District 2 recommendations came from Supervisor Corso's office, these. And then Jacqueline Faust, committee member, provided additional comments to the 6 Board of Supervisors recommended. Did I get that
Okay,
right?
but to clarify, these are your words, not the supervisor's words. Jacqueline.
No, this document, Kathleen, that you're holding up, this came directly from Supervisor Corso's office, and I'm turning around to get
Okay, thank you.
confirmation from Jackie Bergoni on our team.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Yep. And then we have the full listing that was attached. So the 6th that came from the first meeting. Yep, you're all holding it up. And then we received additional clarifying comments from Supervisor Corso, President Corso's office. So we did not get additional clarification from the other 2 supervisors that submitted suggestions. So
Great.
just kind of walking through the papers. There's a lot.
Right.
Thank you.
And I apologize for that ambiguity. I was referring to the additional submission from the supervisor's office. So as I go through these recommendations, I'm just going to take the opportunity to highlight sort of tying the supervisor's recommendations back to what we just discussed about what does it mean to address the structure and operation of the county. So the Constitution specifically says the charter can provide for the removal of county offices. Here, the county currently provides for specific removal authority. The question is whether to eliminate the sunsetting of that provision. So this is squarely within the county's authority to include something in its charter. So number 2, whether the county charter should be amended to add a new section requiring the Board of Supervisors to annually review its governance processes and practices, such as requiring the creation of a governance handbook, receiving demographic reports, etc. Again, this would be the board just setting its own standards for how its governance procedures are reviewed annually. This goes right to the heart of the operation of the governing body of the county, and is something that is within the county's authority to include within its charter. Any questions on this one? Pretty straightforward. Number 3 was whether section 415 of the county charter should be amended to further specify board procedures in the event that the board makes an appointment to fill a vacancy in an elected office. Again, straight from the Constitution. Constitution says the charter can provide for how to fill vacancies. Currently, there are provisions that address when an election is required versus when the board can appoint to fill that vacancy. There is not a lot of detail about how that appointment process works. The question is, should the county charter be amended to provide some more details on what that appointment process looks like?
Question on the vagueness of that. What's our deliverable? And by that, I mean, when we go to vote, are we going to vote on a recommendation that somebody else drafts some language that then is going to go to the board, that's then going to go to a resolution, that's then going to go to the people? And if so, who's going to be doing that drafting, and are we going to see it before we vote?
So what's going to happen after we go through the 6 that came from the Board of Supervisors, then all the ideas that came from the committee, and then if there's any additional ideas on the table, however many, let's say, just for purposes of ease, there's 12 suggested charter amendments. And I'm saying 12 because I'm not sure what the final number is going to be. This committee and I'm going to go back to our first meeting. So in order to move something forward to the Board of Supervisors, we need 10 of the 19 members to move it to the Board of Supervisors. That's one piece. But actually to study, let's go to 12 again. To study any of the 12, we need a majority of who is present here during the meeting. Tonight, there is 17 of the 19 present between online and in the room. So we need 9 people to vote on each of the proposed items to study. So once we decide, say out of the 12, we end up with 8. Then we break into committees that then go off and study. And we're going to start thinking about, we're going to need a committee chair for each of the 8. And again, I'm using just fictitious numbers right at this point because I don't know how many it's going to be. We need 8 committee chairs. Those committees go off and study the particular item. So if this one, let's use this one for example, Section 415 is amended to specify additional elements of it. That group goes off and studies, and then each of our subsequent 4 meetings that are coming up, the information comes back to the body, and then we decide which of those 8 we then forward to the Board of Supervisors. And then there's going to be some drafted language as to what, I'm not 100% sure at this point because I don't know what the items are, but then the Board of Supervisors decides of the Charter Committee's recommendations, are we going to put these 8 on the ballot? How is the language? We'll give them as much as we possibly can at the end of this process.
And Madam Chair, if I could just supplement
Yeah,
that,
please.
the final step there is that if the board chooses to pursue an amendment to the charter, it needs to be done by ordinance. And so in terms of who's actually sitting down and drafting that ordinance, the board would direct the county attorney's office to draft that ordinance and bring it back to the board. And ultimately it's in the board's discretion to decide what that language should look like and what should be proposed. Going back to last week's presentation, there's 2 ways that you can amend a county charter. It can either be through a board proposal or directly from the electors, right? So directly through an initiative process. We are in the board discretionary process. So your committee is tasked with making recommendations to the board. You, the committee, will control the language of that recommendation. The board will take that recommendation, and if they want to pursue it, they will direct an ordinance to be drafted by our office to implement that and put it to the electorate.
It's as clear as mud right now, Mark. So there.
Good, I'm not drafting any ordinance.
No. Okay. Well, there we go for the lawyer on the board. And I know there's other lawyers. So now we'll just keep kind of going through these unless anybody has any questions. Because there's more information from President Corzo about this particular section in the 2-page memo. So I'd keep going, Brian.
Okay. So the 4th, whether the county charter should be amended to identify procedures in the event that the board has cause to believe that an elected office has been or should be vacated because the incumbent official has become physically, mentally, or otherwise incapacitated, with emphasis on preserving confidentiality, dignity, and legal rights of the official. This is one that I want to highlight. So there is state law on the vacation of public offices through incapacity. So that is general state law, sets forth standards for how that becomes, how to make that determination. The board certainly has the authority to set its own process, so to sort of have that hearing and take that evidence about whether or not an elected office has become or should be vacated because of an incapacity. But I just want to highlight that for this one, there is legal uncertainty, I'll just put it that way, about what remedies would be available to the board if it did make that determination, right? So would the board be able to go straight to a remedy or a process that suspends that office or temporarily or more permanently vacates that office, or whether the board needs to go through that statutory process for removal. So this is one where there are elements of it that are certainly within the board's authority to set up a process for making its own determination about a potentially incapacitated official. And again, I'll just leave it at there is some legal uncertainty about what remedies would be available to the board at that point. Great. Okay.
I have a
Oh.
question, sorry.
Yes.
And then we wouldn't be able to recommend those remedies, correct? Like if we had an idea on some of those remedies on how to, like if an elected official became incapacitated, we wouldn't be able to recommend, like, for example, an appointed for the meantime interim.
So I would say that there aren't legal restrictions on what you are able to recommend to the board. That can take, frankly, any form that you deem appropriate. What I want to highlight at this point is that there may ultimately be legal strictures on what the board could ultimately do. So it's not so much a restriction on what you're able to recommend. It's just I just want to highlight at this point that it is an ultimate issue for this particular recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. So not seeing any other questions, we'll go to the next one.
There. So whether any currently elected county offices should be appointed rather than elected. If I did not emphasize this enough at the first meeting, I really want to emphasize it now. That parenthetical there was my addition to the supervisor's recommendation, right? So, i.e., that is the controller, the coroner, the treasurer, tax collector. The recommendation did not come from the supervisor to look at any particular or these three offices specifically. The reason I added that parenthetical information for you is to let you know that as a practical matter and as a legal matter, there are currently three offices that are currently elected that are eligible for appointment. Those would be the controller, the coroner, and treasurer, tax collector. Again, this is something that I think there was some confusion about this, but I just want to emphasize for the committee that the supervisor's question was, should any of the currently elected county offices be appointed? And the supervisor was not identifying specific offices. That was my information for you about which offices are eligible for that.
And Brian, just for clarification, in your parenthetical, could the assessors also be, or is that a constitutional office?
The assessor is under the Constitution an elected office that couldn't be changed.
Okay.
So we have, I asked Brian also for clarification. So there's three constitutional offices: assessor, clerk, recorder, district attorney, and sheriff. And
I'm sorry, could you say that?
so assessor, clerk, recorder.
It's the
district
assessor, right?
attorney,
Yeah.
Assessor.
Yeah.
Assessor, district attorney, and sheriff.
Correct.
So I also wanted to understand, of the 58 counties in the state of California, how does this, like, I looked up sheriff. So there is no appointed sheriff anywhere in the state of California. It's all elected. So that was, I just wanted to look it up so I would understand it.
And if I could clarify, there are So it is the assessor's office that is required to be elected. So the county has consolidated functions with that assessor's office. And so in theory, the county has both the authority to decouple certain functions or offices and make new non-constitutional offices appointed rather than elected. But because the assessor is the assessor, clerk, recorder, that combined office is elected because the assessor is included.
And just so the committee knows, this actually came in 2018 to the Charter Review Committee, that these three positions, controller, coroner, and treasurer tax collector, whether it be appointed or elected. So the group studied it. There's information out there. It was not ultimately something that was accepted by the board or recommended by the charter committee at that time. We also discussed decoupling elections from assessor. That also did not move forward. So just giving some historical context to everyone.
And the last one was whether and how to amend the charter to give the board president greater stature, influence, for example, giving the president a different title when interacting with leaders of other regional partners, such as the mayors of the cities of San Jose and San Francisco. I know there were some questions on this, and I'm just going to offer that that there, throughout the state, right, throughout under both general law and also under the 18 county charters, typically the board, the presiding officer of the board is identified either as president or chair. There wouldn't be precedent for changing the title of the presiding officer. But that's just some additional context for you on this recommendation.
And I also want to add to that because I wanted to understand where our county fits within the 58 counties. So there's 18 of the 58 are charter counties. So just to give a little bit more, and the city and county of San Francisco has an 11-member board elected by district. County of Los Angeles currently has a 5-member board that will increase to 9 following redistricting in 2030. All supervisors are elected by districts. All other California counties, both charter and general law, have a 5-member board that is elected by district. No county calls the presiding officer of the Board of Supervisors anything other than board chair or president. The chair's responsibility is to preside, the board president, chair, however you interchange them, over meetings of the Board of Supervisors. The chair of the Board of Supervisors and or president for the city and county of San Francisco has some additional authority, e.g. appointing all standing and special committees, but San Francisco has lots of unique procedures because it is a consolidated city and county. So just again, to bring more context, because I think there could be questions on this if, you know, does any, one of the things I asked Brian was, does any other charter county have 4 districts, 4 supervisors elected by districts, 1 at large, similar to what happens in some of our local jurisdictions, Belmont being an example. So 4 districts and the mayor is elected citywide. So that does not exist in any charter or any county. So just to kind of give more information as we're going through this.
Great. So those are the 6 issues. If there are no other questions, I do want to return it to your committee for your discussion, but I did get one more question about what was driving the timeline. So someone just wanted to have a better sense of why the board set the deadline it did and what's sort of pushing the timeline. So I worked backwards from election day. So election day is November 3rd this year. The county is required to submit all of its materials 88 days in advance of that election. So August 7th is the last day that the board has to submit any charter amendment if it's going to appear on the ballot this year. The Board of Supervisors, just as your committee did, sets its regular meeting schedule. And so its schedule for this year includes a summer recess in July, so right before that deadline for submitting materials. As I mentioned, any charter amendment has to be done by ordinance. There are procedural requirements for ordinances. They require 2 readings at 2 separate hearings of the board. As I mentioned, there would have to be another hearing at which the board considers your recommendation and then directs the county attorney's office to actually go and write that ordinance before it comes back to be introduced, before it comes back to be actually approved. So that is the source of that May 1st, 2026 deadline for your committee to submit your report to the board. And I don't have to go over this. This was, you saw this last week. That's just the general timeline set out for your committee's work. And with that, if you don't have any more questions, I will return.
I have one question about the timeline, and I mean, we know that looking at the schedule, we have around like 8 meetings, if I'm not wrong. There is like, and this discussion we're gonna discuss again, because that's part of like the proposal that I have. It's gonna like have like a framework, but like how we determine the numbers of meetings that we have to discuss is something that comes from the ordinance. Because like I rewatched the 2 supervisors meetings, December 9 and January 13, and they didn't discuss anything about like how many meetings. And I looking at the charter, yeah, and there is not like a specific of how many meetings we have and how much time we have to provide the recommendations.
So, so at your first meeting last week, the committee did adopt the regular meeting schedule for the committee, and so that's what sets forth the regular meeting cadence. So there's 7 altogether.
There's actually
There's 8 altogether.
9. So because if you counted so there's 2 in February, 2 in March, and 3 in April, and then the 1 in January. Did I do that right?
That comes out to
8. Okay, 8. Thank
So,
you.
so we're at number 2. Number 8 is set for the committee's actual approval of the report. 5. So that leaves 5 meetings, regular meetings in between tonight's meeting and the meeting at which the committee will approve the report. That is the regular meeting schedule. So if no meetings are added, that's how much time you have. It did not come from the board. The board did not impose any specific meeting schedule. As I mentioned last week in my Brown Act presentation, so long as a quorum is available, there is the possibility of scheduling additional meetings if this committee deems that necessary. It would have to be coordinated with county staff. Again, we have to have room, it has to be publicly accessible meeting, et cetera. But from a strictly legal perspective, you have a regular meeting schedule. We're hoping that the work can get done during those meetings, but there is the possibility of.
Now, this doesn't take into consideration committee meetings, because that's where, frankly, the bulk, like subcommittee meetings, the bulk of the work will be discussed, because you're going to need county staff and you might want to interview some people. For example, if the idea to study whether controller is appointed or elected, whoever is responsible for that committee. So there'll be more opportunities to have conversations. It's these larger group meetings that there's a set cadence for.
Yeah. That's a very important distinction. Thank you for that, Chair. Just to emphasize, so the subcommittees will be less than a quorum. They will be temporary. They are not subject to Brown Act restrictions, right? So the subcommittees are able to meet, frankly, as often as they deem appropriate. They'll be able to communicate with one another freely. via email, et cetera. And so there's certainly an opportunity for more meetings of subcommittees. But the regular meetings of the full committee has been set. And that's all I have, Chair.
So I think for next steps, so we have these 6 recommendations from members of the Board of Supervisors. Now, you were all emailed out. We have committee members who have recommended things. We have Jim Lawrence, Kathleen Wheeler, Jacqueline Faust, Lillian Perez, Avia, and Dana Johnson. So what we can do is we can go through all of the proposed, and if there's any committee members tonight that want to bring something forward. So then we get everything on the table, and then we vote as to what the group would want to study going forward. Do you want to do it that way? Or I'm leaving it open if we want to tackle the 6 from the Board of Supervisors first. Now, one of the committee members, and if I'm reading this correctly, Jacqueline had comments to the existing Board of Supervisors versus there's not new in, there is new, so there's both. Okay, so then I'm going to park that. Julie online is saying tackle the first, please. So tackle the 6. I'm seeing Monica nodding her head. Dana has her hand up. And then I'll pull the room. Why don't I go?
Before you ask that question.
Sure.
Quick question. Do we have to study the board's recommendations, or is there an option there?
We go ahead. Oh,
My question was, the board proposed 6 that we study. Do we have to study those, or is there an option to pick and choose and consider some other ones?
so I'll answer that because the board did not give us direction as a body. So we don't have to study the 6 that came from the board. I think I'm interpreting that correctly.
That's correct.
So according to the attorney, I interpret it correctly. So we don't have to study. We can study all or none of them, those 6. So, and let's see. Dana had a question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, when looking at the current elected positions that was shared in, I guess, recommendation number 5, do they all have to be aligned? And what I mean by that is, if we recommend that the treasurer is elected, but the other 2 positions is appointed, would that be something we could do? Or it would have to be, everything has to be either appointed or elected?
The short answer is they do not have to be aligned. So
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Dana, and I apologize. I should use they, them, and so please accept my apologies.
No problem. Thank you for acknowledging. I appreciate that.
Thank you. So let's see. There was a comment in the chat from someone. I'm just trying to keep track. So I have a comment on this. When appropriate for members to share their thoughts on whether it should move forward. Julie, I apologize. I missed that. Which item was it on?
Sorry, technology is hard. Measure A, shocking to
Okay, so measure A, so that is the sunsetting clause or not. So as we go through the recommendations, then I'll call back on you. How's that? Okay, now I see some thumbs up for tackle the first 6, please, online. How does the room feel about tackling the first 6 to whether we study or not? I'm seeing nodding of head. Is anybody opposed to tackling the 6? That's a good way to.
I have a concern
You have a.
that potentially the committee member recommendations will exceed the amount of time available to actually go through them this evening.
So in terms of, because, let's see, it is 6:50. So,
So basically, we have an hour and a half. Okay, because I can see this taking another hour to include comments and then voting on each. Is that what the process is that you're proposing?
so I'm trying to get a sense from the group if we want to tackle the 6 first and get through them, or we want to take it all and vote on everything. And we can go through them. The majority is if I'm seeing it right, wants to tackle the 6 first. So I have a feeling there's strong opinions.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just being a little pragmatic here
Yes,
in terms of
of
time.
getting through it.
I agree with Kathleen, and maybe if we get into a groove and we figure out how long it takes to consider each recommendation, if need be, at the end of the evening, we can add a meeting before the 17th
That, I mean, that
to
makes
discuss
sense.
the other sooner rather than later.
Because we have to know what
And
we're gonna
basically,
study.
We're kind of constrained by the overall schedule, okay, to get this done so that we can form subcommittees,
Yes.
right? So I'm fine with doing this first. Okay, I don't know how the rest of the room feels.
I also have a point to make, and that is that I have 2 items that are not included in this font. So that'll be tacked on at the end of all of this, right?
And is there anyone else in the room? So this is a good moment
Yeah.
of clarification. Is,
But yeah, I think that, well, I'm for equal time. Sure, the board made that recommendation, but I think all the ones on the table, including the ones she just mentioned, should get our equal assessment before we decide which ones go forward. So I hate to see us run out of time and there's 3 or 4 that we need a chance to discuss.
Would it be worth like going through some of them like kind of fairly quickly and seeing if there's a lot of comment and then tabling it towards the end? That way we can see what we agree on and then we can see how much time we have left to designate time to those remaining subjects.
I'm open that, it's like a straw poll, basically. So feeling like, how about we let each committee member, if you can, I don't want to cut anyone off, but can, Jim, you give your thoughts? Because we also need Brian to weigh in on the committee recommendations as to whether they're charter possibilities, or whether we refer them to the county executive, back to the board of supervisors, however that works. So why don't we go through it all and then go from there? How does that sound?
Yeah, and maybe a good editing process as a result, yes.
Okay, and I apologize. We will make, everyone should just in the room, grab a mic when you're speaking. I will do it and speak into it because Vu is having a hard time hearing. And so everybody just grab a mic. Okay, and Daniela has a question.
Can we just go one by one and then do a motion if we agree, or a second if we agree, or discuss if we agree, and that way we tackle them faster?
So I think what I'm hearing is the group wants to go through all the recommended potential charter and then go back and vote one by one. So we get everything on the table. So it's a somewhat equal playing field between what the board and what the charter committee. Are we okay with that?
I'm okay, because I think some things are related quite closely as well, and we'll be voting on the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So we can kind of combine as we go.
Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna go with the handout. So I'm gonna start with Jim Lawrence because he has 2, accountability and transparency of public funds and senior dignity and economic security. Actually, so I think if everyone could keep it in the 3 to 5 minute range, that would be really helpful.
Thank you.
So I don't know how much detail you want me to go into regarding my recommendations, but the first one was whether or not the county should amend to require accountability and transparency standards on all public funds. And my goal there is that this county, via Measure A and other measures, is giving out probably millions of dollars of taxpayers' funds. And today, there's really no, that I'm aware of, accountability from an independent standpoint. I'm a financial background, corporate finance guy, so I'm used to audits, et cetera, et cetera. And I just don't see that, and we're spending too much money. And then I hear the horror story about Star Vista. I'm sure there's others out there. So it prompts me to say, maybe this is an area we need to look at, because that can happen again. And I've talked to my friends in San Francisco, they've had the same challenges. The second one was on, since I'm a senior and representing the seniors, my concern there, immediately with seniors in the community, is that there's no one place that they can go for services. So should the county consolidate all these different offerings that they provide to the senior citizens in this community in one office? So it's one-stop shopping. So that's the gist of what I'm recommending.
So Brian, do you want to comment on those items in terms of charter versus the county executive? Because we want to make sure we capture everything wherever it ends up.
So I'll start with the second one first. So again, as I mentioned, there is a provision in the charter currently that broadly authorizes the board to establish departments, assign certain responsibilities to them. That's something that the actual creation of the department is not typically done in the charter itself. That's something that is authorized by the charter, and then the board is able to implement which departments and which functions it thinks is appropriate through an ordinance process. So that's the second one. And then
Before you leave that one, sure. My concern there, even though the board has that authority today to delegate that responsibility, create that department, I guess I'm trying to say, should we call it out in the charter that the board does that? I don't want to leave it to their discretion, let's say.
Understood, and it's not my role to sort of put my thumb on the scale one way or the other. What I'm trying to offer is that what this committee is doing is presenting recommendations to the board for the board to decide if it's appropriate. So if the desire is to sort of constrain the board through a charter amendment, I'm trying to identify ones that the board is most likely to pursue recommendations from this body. So my answer is just that typically, in terms of the structure and the logic of the county charter, that granularity of identifying specific departments to do specific functions is not addressed in the county charter.
Okay.
And then in terms of the first one, I would just say that there is an auditing and financial report process in the county charter already. And that could be further specified, but there is an auditing function required both by statute and in the county charter.
So it is, because I looked that up actually too, Jim, because in the finance section, it does call out for a financial reporting system, monthly financial activities, internal audits, and the controller kind of furnishing the county with information. I see where you're going with this. So I wanted to understand it better, but.
And Jim, I think the federal government does require our departments in federal, who are receiving federal funds through the super circular to do this. So CBOs are required to submit annually a financial statement to the departments to look at their financial situation with, and post them online. I think the board has also been moving towards the CEO's office, looking at the CBO prior to contracting, so at the procurement end, that they're in good standing in their financial statements. And there have been some, I could tell you, there have been some CBOs declined because of standing recently.
Yeah, and I read that language and, from a financial standpoint and the independence, it's obviously not been done. So how do we strengthen that? We're sitting here today, again, we're spending millions of dollars and it's just flowing out there, So even though it's there and it's not happening, does this language bring it up to the level that it should be? Right.
There's already the authority to do it.
Okay.
And they are doing it. I would, without getting into specifics, numerous ways. The controller can monitor that these reports are being submitted. The board can ask, but they already have the authority, and the federal government requires the CBO who's receiving federal funds through one of our federally subvented departments to provide those documents annually. Each January, they're supposed to come in. You need to look at them. And Star Vista was unique in a certain way, what they were doing. You'd need a little more than a finance person in a department to figure out that they were in trouble.
So Jim, did you have any additional ones besides the ones you submitted in writing? Okay, thank you. I want to check. So moving on to, and at each step, we're going to vote on each of these. So we had Jim presented, Brian gave information, and then at the end, we'll go through. So I'm at 6, I'm at 7, at 8. So I'm keeping track of all of these. So I'm moving on to Kathleen Wheeler.
Thank you. I only have one. That is whether the county charter section 202 should be amended to assign an independent district lines commission after each federal census every 10 years. Such a commission would be tasked to create new supervisorial districts as specified by general state and local law. The new map would not be subject to supervisorial approval before adoption. So what is being asked? Currently, there appears to be no independent process in the county charter or in the county general law for defining district boundaries after the federal census. This recommendation seeks to codify the process in the county charter. Context: following the 2000 census in 2021, the Board of Supervisors created the San Mateo County District Lines Advisory Committee. Comprised of 15 members, 3 from each district, chosen by an independent, nonpartisan organization, namely the League of Women Voters. The committee chose 2 maps for supervisorial approval. The supervisors rejected both maps and chose a consultant's map, which fundamentally didn't change the previous decade's district boundaries. Key issues to consider. Should the supervisors be able to pick their district boundaries regardless of civilian input? The state proposed a law, AB 1248, which would have required the county to create an independent redistricting committee. It was vetoed by the governor due to increased cost to the counties. Note that the cost of the 2021 committee was negligible. However, the supervisors spent money on consultants. AB 849, a law on the books, does require counties and cities to engage the public in the redistricting process by holding public meetings and workshops. San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Santa Barbara have independent redistricting commissions.
Brian, would you?
I'm just going to try to keep this moving for you. The answer is this is within the scope of the charter. This change could be included in the charter.
So this will be item number 9. So thank you, Kathleen. Any questions for Kathleen? Just looking around again.
I'm glad she brought that one up. I was chairman of that commission. I was very disappointed when they did that.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Kathleen. So Jacqueline.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it quick. So I think the recommendations on page 4 actually ladder up to a lot of what the supervisor's recommendations were. So I think we could probably strike those from consideration and add that to the others. Some of my other notes are really just around the language that we are using, and then some like further clarification. So a board of governance review is recommended. So an annual review of governance processes and practices that would be done internally by the Board of Supervisors, and possibly creating a handbook for their own governance, not maintenance. The next one is a row officer, just a professional qualifications audit, just a note to add that in there, that somebody should be meeting the qualifications of the job that they're being appointed or elected to. And then the next one would be a definition of the word emergency. It's pretty vague at this point, and mandate a sunset clause requiring reaffirmation. So if there was an emergency, what that framework will look like that we're claiming it, and then how long does it continue on? I think there's other reasons for that concern more globally. And then linguistics rights. I was just making a note that there isn't really, there's a diverse, we have a very diverse county, so ensuring that like language options are available to those in the county. So we have a lot of Spanish, Chinese, and Tagalog speakers. So consideration for them, and certain postings include that as well. And then a consideration for a Human Rights Commission, just a more broadly one. I know a lot of the commissions in this county are focused on a subset, so that intersectionality between the groups. Yeah.
Thank you, Jackie. Brian, some of this is language clarification and some of it is new. So I'm trying to figure out where to go with this in terms of, are these all separate to study?
I would defer to the proposer on how to characterize. Is it the first 4 or?
So I think pretty much all of them, the first 4 is really language and like clarification. So I would probably group that all into one bucket if you would. And then the consideration for the Human Rights Commission, you could probably also, there's questions of other commissions and identifications. That would probably be separate.
So Jackie, with the ones where you talk about Cheryl remover, board vacancy, incapacity and removal, that would be something, if the group chooses to study those, you would bring into that.
Yeah, because I think they ladder into the other recommendations.
Okay.
So that would be fine to kind of disregard those for the time being.
So then the first 4 on page 5 of the memo would be considered
like language recommendations.
So I'm going to call those 4 10.
Okay.
And then human rights and environmental, would you group those 2 together, or 11 and 12?
Yes, I would group those together.
Okay, so that would be 11. So let me make sure everybody's following, because on page 4 of the memo from Jackie, those will, if the committee chooses to study the ones from the Board of Supervisors, these can ladder into it. Then the first 4 on page 5 will be considered 10 as something for the group to study, and Human Rights Commission and Environmental Bill of Rights is 11. Did I get that? Okay, great. So I'm not seeing any questions. So now I'm going to go to committee member Lillian.
Yeah, my proposal is to have establish a charter review committee framework process. So this will basically clarify and formally articulate the charter review committee's framework. As you can see on the charters, there is no, it established that we need to have a charter review committee but it doesn't give us any like framework. These will actually, I would like to include the overall timeline. I think that we were discussing about timeline, meeting structure, approach to developing recommendations, and public outreach and engagement related to the review process. And I think that today we have seen that we have many questions about like how the process will look like, what the timelines are. So this basically will give us the framework. So in a years, when the new committee needs to do this reviewing process, they will know what to do, and we can establish how many meetings we're gonna have or they're gonna have, and also what the timeline really looks like. This will provide transparency around how deadlines and the number of meetings, and also I think that they will provide more opportunity for public comment and community engagement and also education, because I think that as Kathleen mentioned before, we have a really like short period of time. And I think that if we develop these timelines, right, and can be something that is in a framework, we can have maybe more meetings and have to do this process in a better way. So, yeah.
So, Brian, would you like to comment on that?
So I would just say that that level of, so there is a specific section that deals with the county, the Charter Review Committee, that is light on details. The board absolutely has the ability by ordinance or through resolution, if it wants to add more detail about what this process looks like and sort of those procedural guardrails that that you were mentioning that would be helpful for this process, it could absolutely do that. I would just say that typically for the county's boards and commissions, like that level of detail isn't normally what's in the county charter. So if you look at section 414, that just generally addresses boards and commissions, these are pretty high level requirements for the county's commissions, and things like meetings, deadlines and timelines and meeting schedules, things like that have not typically been included in the county charter. But there is, as you point out, a section for the Charter Review Committee that's designated on its own. So there is opportunity there if you think it's appropriate to recommend changes to that section.
Thank you.
So that will be number 12. Now
just a quick question.
Yes.
So there's nothing in the ordinances or the general law of the county that address the question being raised about process?
Specific to the County Charter Review Committee, no.
Okay.
Apart from what's already in the charter.
So that'll be item 12. So now I will turn it over to committee member Dana Johnson to, Dana has two suggested charter discussion items. So Dana.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So I will just also try to be brief, given our time. I am going to just read kind of what my suggestions is and the proposal around it. And then I think you all had copies to where you see the why it matters. Before I go into reading it, really what brought upon this is looking at the current charter. And I don't know, again, the history around how, that was all brought upon, but it wasn't too much things in there kind of being inclusive for LGBTQI plus community. And if I'm looking at it, and we're doing this for the next 8 years, my hope is that LGBTQI plus is at least more supported. At least I know in our county it would be. And so that is kind of where my notions of what this is. And if I did read it, but if I didn't see that it was included, please forgive me, and anyone can correct me on that. But I just was trying to figure out how there could be more like maybe visibility and inclusiveness with that. So my first one is review funding allocation to provide dedicated funding for community centers serving the most vulnerable marginalized communities. this does not just have to be LGBTQI plus communities, but maybe also underserved and marginalized groups in general. And when I'm saying by funding and grants, if there's a possibility some for the board of supervisors, or if it's the CFO that is, can maybe look deeper into how they can allocate it for our centers. We are very limited with centers that are supporting maybe people of color in the county, and it would just be helpful if we kind of put some type of reserve into supporting them. Um, my proposal was establish a charter recognized funding mechanism that allows funding and or grants to have allocated dollars supporting community centers that are serving LGBTQI plus community, underserved communities, and marginalized groups in the county of San Mateo. The second one is to adapt non-discrimination and gender identity protections. There is something like this that is kind of actually done in various different spaces. I just don't know if it's elevated countywide for these things to happen. And so my proposal for that is explicitly add community members that identify with having a diverse sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression as protected classes in County of San Mateo. I think there is protective class for LGBTQI plus community members, but I don't know if it's expansive to folks that may identify as transgender, non-binary. And so that's kind of where I was coming from with that. That's it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dana. I'm going to turn it over to Brian to comment on both of those.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to take them out of order. So the county does have anti-discrimination, both policies and ordinances. They're throughout the county code and also at the policy level. There are restrictions on requiring the county's contractors to provide equal benefits regardless of marital status. There is a comprehensive equal employment opportunity policy that grants protections. I am not able to address the specific what would be protected categories that are identified. But I would just note that historically the county has adopted anti-discrimination policies either through the ordinance process or through the adoption of formal policies. And there are some that exist. I'm not sure if they are as comprehensive as and address the specific issues that are being identified. But in terms of what level of regulation those normally take, again, it's normally ordinance or policy. And then in terms of dedicated funding, this is another one that if you look at the finance section, in terms of adopting a budget, all the county charter says is the state general law governs the adoption of the budget. The county is mandated to adopt that budget, and historically, and I think across counties have not included specific designated funding in the charter itself. That's just something that is worked through the budget process. In fact, I haven't seen any county charter that goes to that level of specificity about earmarking funds for particular purposes.
Thank you, Brian. So Dana's recommendations will be 12 and 13 for voting purposes. And now I'm going to,
Isn't it 13 and 14? 12 was
yes, I apologize.
William.
Thank you. 13 and 14.
Madam Chair, before you get into deliberations, it's probably the right time to see if there's any public comment.
Actually, we have other committee
Or there's
members.
more. Oh, excuse me. I
Sorry.
apologize. When you get to the end of the presentation,
So-
that would be the appropriate time.
Thank you. So thank you. That was 13 and 14. And then committee member Karen Chapman has two before us. Two,
Yes,
correct?
I have two, and these are from the environmental community. They're still eagerly reviewing other ideas, but these were the two that I had the green light to share tonight.
You get your microphone closer, please.
Can you hear me?
Thank you. Yes.
A little too close. Okay, so the first item is, there's an observation that the only reference to the environment in San Mateo County's charter is in the brief preamble on page 1. So this recommendation would be to add language, which could be determined by the subcommittee, to require the county to consider environmental impacts in its decision-making. Language could include, for example, building resilience for sea level rise and wildfire risk, prevention of offshore oil and gas development, designation of the Santa Cruz Mountains located in San Mateo County as defined as a landscape of county significance that requires special protection. That's the first one. And then the second one that they wanted me to share is the fact that San Mateo County Parks does not have a dedicated source of funding. In other counties, including Santa Clara County, there is dedicated funding in their charter, which I have Santa Clara County's charter on page 20, sets aside at least 10% of the funds transferred from the general fund shall be set aside and used for park development, et cetera. So there is precedent, at least based on our research. The advice would be to add language to the charter, dedicating a direct funding source for the county parks. You know, right now things are great, but if you look at what's happening with our national parks, the concern would be, you know, when Measure K sunsets, you know, is the county or county parks going to be again sort of kicked down the road without funding? So those are the two recommendations from the environmental community, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Karen. So that's 15 and 16. So now I'd like to, Daniela, have your hand up. Did you have something additional?
Yeah, I was looking for them on the emails, but I can't see it. Am I missing something or we didn't receive it on the email?
Actually, no. And I apologize. Karen brought these as handouts. So these are 2 additional passed out in the room tonight. So happy to give you more information. But I just can't get you an email right now.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So now it's time for public comment. And there's also, I want something to the group to think about, because Jim at the last meeting said, what if there are issues brought to the Charter Review Committee after tonight, after we go through these 16, and depending on how we study, does we can bring anything forward to the group, and we can either do majority rule or we could do supermajority rule. So that would mean a higher percentage of members would have to vote for it to add an additional item to study. So that's something for folks to think about. Because we've got 16 potential items that we're going to study. So adding additional ones, we don't have to make the decision on that tonight, but let's see where we end up after we vote on the 16. George?
I have more of a question. One of the problems with, when I was in the San Mateo County Veterans Commission is is identifying veterans, period, in the county. And we've got service people that are here in this county that need medical attention and they don't know they can get it. What can we do? Is there something that we can do to put on the charter to help us obtain that information so that we can get them the help they deserve?
Brian, I'm going to.
So through the chair, I mean, I'm not qualified to address sort of the how best to get that information, like sort of what the policy response would be. What I can offer is that again, that's a level of granularity that is not typically addressed in the county, but I mean, in the county charter, but I can't address the appropriate response to that concern.
So George, I will add veterans. I'm just going to add number 17 and I'm going to say veterans healthcare. And the committee, again, we need 9 votes to move any of the 17 items forward to study.
Can I have a suggestion?
Yes, Monica.
It sounds like we're what it's being suggested goes under the bigger umbrella of equity. And I would move to add or tack it on to Dana's suggestion. Because it would be it's still veterans, would be veterans, seniors, LGBTQI community would all fall under like underserved and marginalized in some ways.
George, will you accept that do you want it as a standalone or do you want it under either 13 or 14?
I'd rather have it as a standalone because that information is not being gotten at period anywhere. And we really need to help the veterans out.
Okay, so we will, thank you, Monica, for making this suggestion. We're gonna leave that as 17 veterans healthcare. So we have 17 items and it's 7:23. So just, Kim, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just as a process question, I was wondering if I could, similar to what we discussed last time and committee member Mr. Lawrence suggestion about emergency protocols. I'm trying to weigh and balance both how can we include, like how can we meaningfully engage the public because we only got this recommendation like a week ago, while at the same time, well, I understand that we were appointed like quite some time ago, but the timeline was like a week ago. I'm trying to weigh both the reports and also the suggestion. I was wondering if we're able to provide like any quote unquote emergency recommendations looking at the schedule by like Tuesday, March 3rd, assuming that we'll finalize our subcommittees tonight, but if there are any emergency ones that people do want to bring up by March 3rd, then that would still give us at least like 2 months to do like a very thorough review.
So that's another way to approach what I brought up earlier, which is if we were to add anything, it's either and anything at any time. I mean, honestly, we don't even have to put a deadline on it unless the group wants to. So maybe think about that in terms of if we were to add any additional, if majority or I call it a super majority because I did the math and I said, okay, 15 members of 19, just like sometimes the Board of Supervisors says a 4/5. I mean, so it's something to think about, but I think we should vote on the 17 that are in front of us now so that we can then move to establishing committees. So I think, Kim, if we could, okay, so this is gonna, I'm trying to figure out the way. Dana, you have your hand up. And Vo, you have your hand up. Vu, I'm sorry. So Dana first and then Vu.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess my question is, we're voting on 17, right, tonight. And a lot of them, they do sound like they kind of connected together if we're looking at it equitable. And so I understand what was brought up about wanting to make sure that we're elevating about the veterans, but there's ways that we could still put that in the other ones to make sure it's elevated. Because I'm looking at the timeline, if we're gonna have 17 or something in that around about each meeting, then will we have enough time to really try to get the proposals completed by our deadline? So I would love to know if there's a way that folks can maybe to discuss about it being more of a equitable, or would you maybe entertain a conversation about that? Because veterans healthcare matters as well as LGBTQI folks who are also in that realm and other folks that are underserved. So I'm wondering if there's ways that we can elevate that type of conversation of how that could also be elevated as making this a part of this one.
So we are not, we're not at the moment where actually I can say that we're going to study all 17. We're at the moment where we're going to vote as to which of the 17 receive 9 or more votes. And then we'll know what we're studying. And then, Dana, to kind of go forward is at that point, I think then the group can talk about ways to connect.
Ones that weren't chose. Gotcha.
And Vu? I apologize. I say Vu, is it Vo? I'm sorry.
No problem, Madam Chair. I was just going to clarify Vo, so you can cross out the U if that makes it easier for you.
Thank you.
Of course. But I also wanted to just echo what Kim had said, being open to, and even what you have mentioned, being open to considering any other ones that come up on the table, and us, whether that's a majority or supermajority vote, only because I know some of us also intended to meet with our communities or underserved communities, and we didn't have the opportunity to do so because of this quick turnaround 1 week kind of window that we were given from when we were sworn in last Monday. So I just wanted to elevate that, saying that if we do at some point meet with our communities and find something that we can also plug into one of the many ones that we vote on, just like Diana was just mentioning, that it could be, we can elevate all underserved communities in a specific issue that we're going to be voting and pushing forward. That would be great. But yeah, I just wanted to leave the door open for folks to, whether that's again a super or a majority or supermajority vote, that we'll be considering anything else that comes down the pipeline.
No, absolutely. I see a lot of nodding around the table. I don't think this committee is set up to shut down anything that's brought before us. So if there are things that come forward over the next months that we're actually actively researching whatever we decide tonight, absolutely things can be brought forward. I mean, that's the spirit of the charter review, at least in my estimation, and kind of seeing nodding. Tom?
Madam Chair, I don't know whether this is timely or not, but we've got a lot of items here in front of us, and I'm just wondering whether or not there's a sufficient consensus to move forward with the recommendations that have been made by the Board of Supervisors out of deference to them as a group. Just make a single motion to accept all of the items that the board has asked us to study in one motion, and then move on to some of these others on a item by item basis. If that's not a group consensus, I certainly accept it. I'm just offering it as a suggestion about a way to maybe move forward in a expeditious way.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
I'm of the opinion that we have so many on the table. I'd like to just see a list and maybe take a day or two for everyone to really internalize what they mean, what impact they have, and where they rank. But just to go through the 17 tonight and pick 5, 7, 9, I think that's unfair. I'm just reading of some of them for the first time. I really haven't stepped back and really said, what does this really mean to this community? So I just like to offer that.
So here's a couple of options. And I'm just going to talk out loud. So what Tom suggested is accept the 6 from the Board of Supervisors. The issue with that is the whole board didn't give us the 6. So one board member gave us 4, one gave us 1, and the other gave us 1, and 2 gave us nothing. We we were given no kind of parameters. And then the committee brought forth everything. So that's one piece of it. That's why I took them independently. If people would like to vote differently, we can do that, but it's hard because it wasn't a board recommendation.
So, Madam Chair, what about this? What, would you be willing to accept a motion that we vote on the 6 suggestions that have been submitted by the supervisors as a package and see whether or not that gets 9 votes?
Absolutely. You just put a motion on the table. Do we have a second to what
Madam
Tom
Second.
just?
Just as a reminder.
Oh,
now is the right time.
Okay,
Call for vote.
sorry, before, so Mark seconded it. So we have a motion and a second. And now I need to open it up to public comment. If there's any public comment. I'm like looking at the screen. There's 2 attendees. I don't see any hands up. So we have a motion and a second to move those 6 forward to study.
Madam Chair, could
yes.
we deliberate on some of these? Because I am concerned that one of them, as legal counsel pointed out, does not have legal viability. And for us to move it forward as a package, it just doesn't make sense for me on that. But there is a second, but just want to remind folks of what legal counsel said on one of them.
And
I'm also. It's not a board.
so I'm, Jim, sorry.
No, I'm just, it's not a board recommendation. It's only 1 or 2 members of the board. So I don't think that's just.
So, sorry, Committee Member Flores, the recommendation that you're referring to is the one about the physical, mental, or otherwise incapacitated? Is that, so I just want to be clear that everyone's on the same page.
That is correct. That is part of the 6, which I think should not be bundled. I mean, we should have deliberation on all 6, give point of view on whether they're viable and what they actually apply to.
Okay. Thank you. Jackie?
Well, I was going to say, would it be worth going through the 6 tonight individually, voting on those, and then tabling some of the others for either another meeting before the next one or the next meeting? So at least we have progress on some of these tonight. We did hear about the board's recommendation, individual board members' recommendations last time. So we did have a little bit more time with those than most of the others.
So what I'd like to do at this point, because Julie has her hand up. Julie, are you speaking on the motion?
Yes.
Okay, please.
Thank you. So I'm opposed to the motion. I don't think that the recommendations from those 3 board members should be treated any differently than all of the rest of the suggestions. Nothing should be passed through in deference. They should all be discussed individually again, just like the entire bucket of committee and then potentially community recommendations will be.
So Kathleen's ready to press her mic and Tom has something to say. I can tell.
I was only offering the motion because I thought there might be a general support for going forward with it. In light of the concerns, I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay, will the second, I'm sorry. Tom, can you say into the microphone what you just said?
I apologize. I offered the motion only because I thought there might be a consensus as a way to proceed expeditiously. But in light of the concerns that have been expressed, I don't want to compel anybody to lose an opportunity to make an observation that they want to make. So I'll withdraw the motion.
Point of information, do we have a hard stop at 8 o'clock? Because it's 7:35 already.
We do not. I mean, we have the meeting scheduled till 8. I think it would really behoove this committee to get through some of the recommendations in front of us so we can actually move some work forward tonight. And I'm seeing a lot of nodding of heads. Because if we take all 17, wait till another meeting, and then debate it, it's going to be challenging. So at least can we get through some?
Just a quick reminder, I think what we're voting on is whether or not we want to move each of these to further study.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We're not voting on, getting it into lawful language.
We're not going for perfect tonight. We're going to try for adequate at this point. I'm not even going to say good. So what I would suggest at this point is to go through them as we have them numbered, and we vote and we comment. So what I'm going to ask for, if each of these items, if there's a person who motions in second, and then we can have discussion on each one and then we vote. Does that sound like a plan? So the first one is whether section 415 of the county charter should be amended to further specify board procedures in the event that the board makes an appointment to fill a vacancy in an elected office. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
A second.
Okay, so I have a second. I saw George and Ileana. I know there were other seconds. So now this is the time to discuss this. I see Julie's hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real quick, Julie, San Mateo Labor Council, we represent many people, including the sworn and non-sworn staff of the Sheriff's Office. I really appreciate what President Corzo is trying to do. I know why she's doing it. She has incredible intentions, but I'm opposed to this. So the board put this on the ballot. We ran the campaign. The consistent
Julie,
Yep.
this is not the removal of the elected sheriff. This is the
Yep.
other one.
Sorry, darling.
Sorry, I knew when you started with Measure A, if I'm, somebody correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think Julie is referring to number 5 here, the removal of the elected sheriff. So this is regarding, wait a minute, if you just give me.
You started with this one, though, I think, when you lined them out, when you began the narrative. I think this was number 1, like within the slides. You're talking about the paperwork, but I think when the slides went up, this one was number 1.
Okay. You know what? You're absolutely right. So, because I have 18 pieces of paper in front of me, if you give me 1 second, I will. One where I started with 1. No, it's.
Oh, sorry.
Never mind.
Oh, it's this one. Yes. Okay. Actually, that is though, section 415. She's referring to number 5, but this, I'm looking, I am on the right one.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I apologize. So my slides don't correspond to the order of that separate handout. That's my fault. Those 2 documents were prepared by different people at different times. And so that's why there's the confusion. I think you're operating from the separate handout, not my slides.
So, Julie, I apologize. So I'm operating from the handout that we were given at the first meeting. And so it has the 6 outlined on 1 page.
Copy that. All I heard was I didn't mess it up, so I love that. Thank you. Tap me back in at 5.
So this is, so we have a motion and a second on the table, and I am looking at Supervisor Corzo's additional explanation for this one, which goes to so this goes to number 2 on Supervisor Corzo's additional handout. Procedures of board appointments to fill vacancies in elected office. What is being asked? This is whether the charter should provide more consistency, transparency, and predictability in vacancies, whether voters would benefit from clearer rules about notice to the public, application. So that explains it a little more. Do people, Eddie?
Thank you. I want to speak on this. I think I would like to support this. I want to give you guys some color and some just flavor of what this looks like practically. Many times, many boards and city councils decide how to fill a vacancy which way. It's been very newsworthy, I would say, that there was even a council member in the city of Richmond that was actually, his name was pulled out of a bag, a paper bag. So there wasn't a process to fill a vacancy. It could be all sorts of ways. It could be, you know, pulling on straws and whatnot. I think the level of professionalism and transparency and also opportunity for the public to get engaged, as we saw most recently during the appointment of the county sheriff, was outlined in a very proper way. Perhaps we could have extended a little bit the time for submission of applications, or maybe another community town hall forum, et cetera. But I think this warrants a need, because it presents a level of professionalism that the voters, the residents, deserve to engage, as well as giving it an opportunity for county staff not to be scrambling at the very last minute to try to put stuff together, as well as county counsel in his office. So I think this is a way that we can move about. And remember, there will always be opportunity for the board to tweak it a little bit, right? Deciding what's pertinent and whatnot. So for those reasons, I think it warrants further discussion and exploration.
So are there additional comments on this, thoughts? Or can we move to a vote? And it would be 9 of the 17 to move it forward to study. So, Kim, I'm going to ask you.
Okay. So roll call is Tom Adams,
Yes.
Bo Amave. Bo,
Sorry. Yes.
Lillian Perez Avila,
Yes.
Karen Chapman,
Yes.
Eddie Flores,
Yes.
Jacqueline Faust,
Yes.
Roseanne Faust,
Yes.
Lynette Garcia. Yes, okay. Mark Haslew,
Yes.
Nathan Healy
Yes.
is absent. Or Nathan Healy is absent. Okay, Dana Johnson,
Yes.
Daniela Jonatude,
Yes.
Jim Lawrence,
Yes.
Julie Lind,
Yes.
Monica Mejia,
Yes.
Eliana Rodriguez,
Yes.
George Smith,
Yes.
Kathleen Wheeler,
Yes.
Kimberly Wu.
Yes.
Right, 18.
Okay, so we have our first, so start thinking about who wants to be on that subcommittee and who's going to chair it. So moving on to, so Lynette joined, Lynette Garcia joined. So now we have 18. So it's going to have to be 10 to move it forward. So I just want to clarify. Now it is whether and how to amend the charter to give the board president greater stature, influence, e.g. title, when interacting with executive leaders of regional partners. So do we have a motion and a second on this?
I would move we don't consider this and move it forward.
So you would move not to move it forward?
Yes, that's correct.
And Kathleen seconds it. So we need, anyone want to comment on this? Do we want to?
This is about as silly as it gets.
Okay. So the question is, do we need to do a negative vote? Because, I mean,
Okay, then is there anyone who wants to move it forward?
so I'm not seeing anyone online want to move this forward? No, everyone. Okay, so.
No, but I have a question, Madam Chair. You said a negative, moving it forward, a negative, like, if we say no to all of them, are they just categorized as negative, or is just
So,
like,
no,
no?
I apologize. So
Okay.
what we're doing, and I think, let's do a point of clarification. I think if we don't get a maker and a second to move something forward, then it doesn't get moved forward, versus doing kind of the
full vote.
the full vote, like, and not moving it forward. Mark, are you okay with that? Not,
I'm perfectly okay with
okay, so this will make it a lot easier from a process perspective.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, so number 2, we're not moving it forward. Number 3, whether the county charter should be amended to add a new section requiring the Board of Supervisors to annually review the board's governance processes and practices, such as requiring the creation of a governance handbook, amending the handbook, and inclusion of a demographic report.
Move approval.
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Julie. I heard the second by Eddie. Do we have any comments on this?
I think doing it every year is overkill. You're creating a new bureaucratic mess for the county executive's office. Maybe do it every 2 years or 4 years.
The subcommittee could study that. If I could, Madam Chair, I think this is important for many levels. Let me give you guys an example of what many cities do and what some cities don't do. In the city of South San Francisco, our actual council handbook actually outlines the rotation of mayor. As you might have heard, there were in recent years some cities that did not have any of that in writing. And it was just kind of a very chaotic scene. Some cities were left without a mayor for a certain amount of weeks. This could apply to that, right? It doesn't have to be every year, to your point, Mark. We do it every 2 years, or depending on which, board member or whoever, council member in my instance, wants to bring up amendments or modify anything. The clerk takes care of that and process it. I think it's a best practice, a best governance practice to have a board handbook, right, that they could refer to, aside from, of course, the county charter. I'm supportive of moving it forward for subcommittee study.
Any other, I see Dana, you have your hand up.
Yes, I'm agreeing, but I have a question. Like, if we vote this through the subcommittee, discuss it, I guess I'm a little concerned with the timeline. I do think probably at least set it a year. In some cases, maybe better for some cities instead of 2 years. Some cities, it may not be probably a good idea for some of the folks to be in a space of mayor for 2 years of a term. So I guess would the subcommittee be the judge of all of that and then bring that back to us?
So I think the subcommittee would review all the comments. If this gets moved forward to study, then the subcommittee reviews all of that and then brings it back to this full committee.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. So not seeing any other questions, we'll need a vote on this.
Tom Adams. Bo Amuve.
Yes.
Lillian Perez Avila.
Yes.
Karen Chapman.
Yes.
Eddie Flores.
Yes.
Jacqueline Faust.
Yes.
Roseanne Faust.
Yes.
Lynette Garcia.
Lynette?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mark Hayslip.
Yes.
No.
Nathan Healy is absent. Dana Johnson.
Yes.
Daniela John Dadu.
Yes.
Jim Lawrence.
Yes.
Julie Lind.
Yes.
Monica Mayhew.
Yes.
Ileana Rodriguez.
Yes.
George Smith. Kathleen Wheeler.
Yes.
Kimberly Wu.
Yes.
17.
Okay, so number 3 moves forward. We're on to number 4. Whether any currently elected county offices should be appointed rather than elected. And we're looking at coroner, controller, and tax collector.
Move approval.
Tom made a motion. Do we have a second? So I do not see a second, which means that the motion dies. So, you know what? I'm actually gonna, I'm gonna second this one. So now we'll do a vote.
All right, Tom
Julie,
Adam?
do you want to speak on the motion?
Yes, please, quickly. So I was on charter review back in 2018. Similar suggestions, however you want to frame out the framing, have been moved forward in past charter reviews and not been advanced. And there is no reason to take power from the electorate to select the individuals in these offices. So I will be voting no.
Could I just speak
Tom?
on behalf of-
Speaking-
Into the mic, please,
Thank
Tom.
you. I don't think that by taking a look at this, we're saying that we're going to necessarily move to change these from election to appointment. And I wasn't here in 2018, and I don't know any of these three officers. But the world has changed in a lot of ways, and I think that in some instances, you can get better qualified people in these positions if you do it by appointment, because some people with a lot of qualifications won't want to run for election. These offices, I think if they were, some of them subject to appointment, it's certainly possible that there would be greater accountability to the Board of Supervisors than there is now when there's not really direct responsibility. And I think that if some of these were subject to appointment by the Board of Supervisors, there may be greater transparency in the conduct of the office than there currently is. These offices, I mean, maybe they should be elected. I'm not saying that one process is better than the other, but I do think, particularly with the treasurer, that there are questions about expertise, and we may be able to get, I'm not criticizing the existing treasurer. I don't know anything about that person, but it may be that in the current situation where the world of finance has changed a great deal, and I think a lot of specific expertise is beneficial, and it may be, I'm not saying that I've come to any conclusion about any of this, but it may be worth studying whether or not by appointment we could end up with greater expertise, more transparency, and greater accountability than we do through the election process. Thank you very much.
Ileana?
The chair, I guess I'm concerned, I think an auditor controller should be independent of another electoral body so that they can truly do their fiduciary duty of auditing departments and holding, there's the check and balances. I also believe that the treasurer tax collector, we've seen in years back where there was an attempt to influence the investment policies of the tax treasurer collector, and I think they should also be independent. It shouldn't be, we've seen this play out at a national level with the Federal Reserve. So I'd be voting no.
Thank you. I see Dana has her hand up.
Yes, I just have a question. Again, this is with the alignment. What if the coroner maybe should be considered more for appointment, but then like the treasurer isn't? How will we specify that in this vote? Because right now it seems like we're aligning them.
Madam Chair, I heard the motion to be to consider any and all of the offices. So the motion is to allow the subcommittee to look into any of those three. But ultimately, as been discussed, the subcommittee will be coming back and reporting to the committee as a whole on which, if any, of those offices they'd be recommending for appointment.
So the subcommittee could choose to slice and dice if it chooses to move it forward.
Just, Madam Chair, thank you. Just as a point of information for my colleagues, the motions we're moving ahead is if it's moving and studied in subcommittee or not. That's it. We're not picking, we're not slicing, we're not looking at it 5 ways, -1 + 3. It's just whether to move to subcommittee or not.
So any other questions? Dana, oh, you had your hand up, but I think you put it down. Okay, so we are, The reason I seconded this motion, and I am also going to vote against it, even though I seconded it, is because I wanted this kind of discussion. This is very important for this committee to have this kind of dialogue. So, Kim, have at it.
All right, Tom Adams,
Yes.
Bo Amuve,
Yes.
Lillian Perez Avila,
No.
Karen Chapman,
No.
Eddie Flores,
No.
Jacqueline Faust,
No.
Roseanne Faust,
No.
Lynette Garcia,
Yes.
Mark Hayslip, Nathan Healy is absent, Dana Johnson,
No.
Daniela Jondatute,
No.
Jim Lawrence, Julie Lind,
No.
Monica Mija,
No.
Ileana Rodriguez,
No.
George Smith,
No.
Kathleen Wheeler,
No.
Kimberly Wu.
No.
Does not pass.
Does not pass. So we are not moving on number 4. Moving to number 5, whether county charter 412.5, removal of elected sheriff for cause, should be amended to delete subsection E, which currently states that the sunset will be December 31st, 2028. So do I have a motion and a second on this one?
I move to move it forward.
I have a motion from Mark. I have a second from Jim. Does anyone, actually, I know one person that wants to comment. Julie, I'm going to call on you because this is the one.
Thank you. So all of the stuff I said before, President Corzo is wonderful. Work with the primary impacted working groups. So I am in opposition to moving this forward because, as a reminder, this has to go to the ballot. The messaging on Measure A, which is what this is in reference to, the messaging on Measure A, both by the board and during the campaign to the electorate, was this is a one-time temporary fix for a very specific problem. So to then have potentially the board send back to the electorate, well, we're actually going to walk that back a bit. So we'll pull the sunset and then have it exist in perpetuity. So I think that goes counter to how it was presented to the voters when they were given the choice on whether or not to pass it.
And I want to add that giving the power of the Board of Supervisors to just remove the sheriff and being this an elected position, you will affect the check of balance. So I definitely agree to not move forward. And again, in the case that we get into another issue with another sheriff that is being breaking the law, we can always ask the constituents and community members if they want to give that power to the Board of Supervisors during that frame time. But it doesn't mean that we need to have it there.
Madam Chair, I'd like to agree with Eddie Flores and remind everybody that what this motion is whether or not this is important enough for consideration by the entire committee. We're not voting on the merits of it, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. And given what's been in the newspapers the last 2 days, letters to the editor and the Journal today, and the headlines in the Palo Alto Palo Alto newspaper, excuse me, this is a matter of grave public importance, and I think it deserves full committee discussion.
Any other comments on this before we take it to a vote, whether the full committee wants to study it? I see someone's hand up. Kimberly?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would be interested in researching this further. The reason being is because with what's been happening in the news, local law enforcement can often act as force multipliers if they choose to cooperate with ICE or federal agencies. So if a sheriff is found to be cooperating with ICE, violating state law, violating county policies, that would be something that would be difficult to then work on a recuse for the sheriff within that next election. I would be interested in researching just this further. It's not necessarily, again, as other committee members have said, on the merits of it, but I think it is important to address, given the times that we're in, that we need to find a way to hold the sheriff accountable if they are going to be cooperating with ICE. That's faster than an election.
Thank you, Kimberly. So we have a motion and a second. We will now go to a vote.
Tom Adams,
Yes.
Vo Amave,
Yes.
Lillian Perez Avila,
No.
Karen Chapman,
No.
Eddie Flores,
No.
Jacqueline Faust,
Yes.
Roseanne Faust,
No.
Lynette Garcia,
Yes.
Mark Hayslip,
Yes.
Nathan Healy is absent, Dana Johnson,
No.
Daniela Jonatu,
No.
Jim Lawrence,
No.
Julie Lind,
No.
Monica Mija,
No.
Ileana Rodriguez,
No.
George Smith,
No.
Kathleen Wheeler,
No.
Kimberly Wu.
Yes.
We have a vote of 6. So it does not go forward.
Thank you, everyone, for the discussion. I appreciate that on all the items. So we are moving on to item number 6, which is whether the county charter, I'm actually going to do, it's 8:03. Is everybody acceptable at this point to just keep going for now? I'm not seeing anybody that isn't. So, okay. Number 6, whether the county charter should be amended to identify procedures in the event that the board has cause to believe an elected official has been or should be vacated because the incumbent official has become physically, mentally, or otherwise incapacitated. I'm not going to read these in their entirety. I'm just giving you the flavor. So do I have a motion and a second? Okay,
I'll move it.
Ileana moved it. Again, I'm going to follow what I did shortly before. I'm going to second that so we can have a discussion on it. I am very concerned about the legality of this. That's what I keep coming back to. If the committee decides to study it, then we can further, as Mark said, we're not debating the merits of it, discuss whether it's possible. I'm not going to vote for it, again, for reasons I just stated. So anyone else want to comment before we take a vote? So we're going to call for the vote.
All right. Tom Adams,
No.
Vo Amave,
No.
Lillian Perez Avila,
No.
Karen Chapman,
No.
Eddie Flores,
No.
Jacqueline Faust,
No.
Roseanne Faust,
No.
Lynette Garcia,
No.
Mark Hayslip,
No.
Nathan Healy is absent, Dana Johnson,
No.
Daniela Jonatu,
No.
Jim Lawrence,
No.
Julie Lind,
No.
Monica Mija,
No.
Ileana Rodriguez,
Yes.
George Smith,
No.
Kathleen Wheeler,
No.
Kimberly Wu.
No.
Does not pass.
All right, thank you. So we, out of the Board of Supervisors, we are studying 1 and 3. So that's done. So now I am moving to committee member Jim Lawrence's recommendations, and that's accountability and transparency of public funds. Whether the county charter should be amended to require clear accountability and transparency standards for all public funds. So do I have a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion. Oh. Sorry.
Again, I'm going to second, as I've been doing, to allow debate. If no one wants to debate it, we can go to a motion. I'm sorry, we have a motion and a second. We'll go to a vote.
Sorry, Madam Chair, just quick clarification. Which one are we looking at right now?
We are on the recommendations from committee members that were sent out to the committee as of Friday, January 30th.
Mm.
This is committee member Jim Lawrence. This is the beginning of a 7-page document. So we have a motion and a second, and now we'll go to a vote.
Tom Adams,
No.
Bo Amuve,
No.
Lillian Perez Avila,
No.
Karen Chapman,
No.
Eddie Flores,
No.
Jacqueline Faust,
No.
Roseanne Faust,
No.
Lynette Garcia,
No.
Mark Hayslip.
No.
Nathan Healy is absent.
No.
Dana Johnson,
No.
Dana, I'm sorry, what, did you say yes or no?
I said no. I'm sorry. Are you having
Yeah,
trouble
now
hearing me?
we heard you, thank you.
No problem.
Daniela Jonatude,
No.
Jim Lawrence,
Yes.
Julie Lind,
No.
Monica Mija, Monica,
No.
Ileana Rodriguez,
No.
George Smith,
No.
Kathleen Wheeler,
No.
Kimberly Wu.
No.
Does not pass.
Okay, we are moving on to number 8, senior dignity and economic security. Whether the county charter should explicitly recognize senior dignity and economic security as a county responsibility. Jim, are you gonna make the motion? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna second this. Any comments? I'm going to move to a vote. One of the things before we go to vote on this, all of the comments that we make tonight on anything get captured in the minutes. These items, even the ones that are being voted no on, will go to the Board of Supervisors. So they know that we discussed them, we debated, and that then they can choose, even on the items that we're not going to study, they may do other things with them because they know it's important to the committee. So it's a reason I'm trying to do motions and seconds on even the ones that clearly I don't think are going to be moved forward.
Madam Chair, I want to comment.
Yes, please.
I believe that there is a master plan already for aging for the state of California. And it's being followed by aging and adult services and disability services for each county in California already. So although I work with seniors and this touches my heart, I think it's a waste of time to really look into giving us the power to do something that are already professionals doing through the aging master plan.
Thank you,
And
Daniela.
I say my seniors in Foster City do not believe any of that.
Yeah, and I want to echo what Daniela has mentioned. There is a master plan that Health puts together every so often. I don't know the intervals, but they develop a master plan on aging. And I understand the one-stop shop, Jim. I think it's great. It's the decoupling of the dollars that makes it very difficult to implement because they sit in various departments. So it becomes inefficient to decouple, where lots of this, you're talking about federal funding.
It's always the dollars. Too many people are hurt. And I say, but I understand. Yeah.
So we're going to go to a vote on this one?
Tom Adams,
No.
Bo Amuve,
No.
Lillian Perez Avila,
No.
Karen Chapman,
No.
Eddie Flores,
No.
Jacqueline Faust,
No.
Roseanne Faust,
No.
Lynette Garcia, Lynette Garcia. All right. Or abstain at this time. Mark Hayslip,
Yes.
Nathan Healy is absent. Dana Johnson,
No.
Daniela Jonatude,
No.
Jim Lawrence,
Yes.
Julie Lind,
No.
Monica Mija,
No.
Ileana Rodriguez,
No.
George Smith,
Yes.
Kathleen Wheeler,
No.
Kimberly Wu.
No.
Does not move forward.
Thank you, everyone, again for the discussion. So moving on to item number 9, this is Kathleen Wheeler. This is the recommendation whether to amend the charter to include an independent district lines commission to be formed of county citizens after each federal census every 10 years. So do we have a motion and a second? Thank you, Mark.
Second.
Thank you, George. Any comments on this? Seeing none?
I guess a clarification for Brian, when we take a vote,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
Are there regulations to how you draw these lines? Because I remember some of the last maps and there were pockets of people that they were trying to put into one district, which I think just screamed of gerrymandering. So are there guardrails?
The short answer is yes, there are guardrails. They are primarily derived from constitutional law. So there is a requirement that districts roughly be equal in terms of population, so that roughly one person, one vote is honored. As I'm sure you followed in the news, there's questions about gerrymandering and then the intent behind those things. I want to keep you moving here. These are all constitutional restrictions. It's certainly within this body to look into this, and generally, as the proposer mentioned, there are other counties that use this mechanism, including at least one that has it built into their charter. So there is some precedent, and there may be some regulations that guide how that works, but certainly this could be built into the charter if voters wanted to do it.
Thank you, Ileana, and thank you, Brian. So we're going to go to a vote on this?
Tom Adams,
Yes.
Vo Amave,
Yes.
Lillian Perez Avila,
Yes.
Karen Chapman,
Yes.
Eddie Flores,
No.
Jacqueline Faust,
Yes.
Roseanne Faust,
Yes.
Lynette Garcia,
Yes.
Mark Hayslip,
Yes.
Nathan Healy is absent, Dana Johnson,
Yes.
Daniela Jonatu,
No.
Jim Lawrence,
Yes.
Julie Lind,
No.
Monica Mija,
No.
Ileana Rodriguez,
Yes.
George Smith,
Yes.
Kathleen Wheeler,
Yes.
Kimberly Wu.
Yes.
Okay, we have 14.
All right, thank you. So number 9 be studied. So we are moving on to number 10, which is on page 5 of your handout. And this is, it's basically language cleanup on board governance review, row officer consolidation, definition of emergency, and language access and equity. So do I have a motion and a second?
I'll motion it.
Jackie, motions. I will second it. So any comments on this? All right, let's go to a,
I just want to provide, I think that this is necessary, especially we want more like community engagement and community participating, and definitely have people to be more informed about what like charter is in general. So just to take that into consideration.
Madam Chair,
yes.
just a point of clarification for Brian. So on the professional qualifications, we can define for a controller, treasurer, tax collector, what foundational basic knowledge and skills they should have to fulfill the office.
So through the chair, I might ask the proposer to clarify, but that specific proposal requires a professional qualifications audit before any two unrelated offices are consolidated. And so what I understand this proposal to be is to look into whether to write something into the charter that requires an additional layer of review before the board exercises its ability to consolidate offices. And so So for instance, there's something in the charter right now that says, the charter provides that, for instance, the coroner and the sheriff are required to be separated under the charter. And so this is sort of in line with that. It's incidental to the county's ability to consolidate or segregate offices. This is, as I understand it, requiring a review process in the charter prior to unrelated offices being consolidated.
Thank you. My misread. Thank you for the clarification.
Kathleen and then William.
So can you be explicit? This is a laundry list in my mind. So what are we exactly voting on?
Whether to study if any of these suggestions should be modified for the charter. So these four,
So the first four.
board governance, row officer, definition of emergency. So
Wait a minute, there's
What about the first page?
There's a whole first page.
okay, so Jacqueline clarified. Jackie, why don't you say what you did?
Those really laddered up into the ones that were submitted by the supervisors, the separate supervisors. So I said earlier to disregard those since we kind of voted on them already. And then these top fours is really like on page 5 is really just language and consideration of like when is the charter unclear within its written word, and then how do we clarify that? These are probably examples is a better way to put that. And then the consideration would be to look at the language within there and where it needs to be cleaned up.
And just so Brian, as a clarification, so if we go to subcommittee and these are all reviewed and it's agreed that the language needs to be changed, do they have to go to the voters as separate instances?
Generally, yes. Each individual change would have to be identified.
So are you okay, Matt? Are you okay with this being, not treating these separately? Okay, given that they would have to, if they were all approved, they wouldn't be a lump sum. We wouldn't be proposing something. We'd be proposing 4 things.
Yes.
I think it would also be like the slice and dice method that we were talking about earlier of what would be appropriate. That would be for the committee to decide what to push forward within those 4.
Okay. Was there anything else that we had that kind of fell into this category of wording change?
So the next two on that page, Human Rights Commission and Environmental Bill of Rights, we included as one study item. We included those 4 as one because the committee member who proposed them said, I'm okay with the committee studying those 4, recognizing what you just said, Kathleen, which is if the committee came out of studying it and said, yeah, we'd have to recommend 4 things to the board. But it was just in order to keep the items that we were studying over the 20.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, through the chair, if I could just get clarification on emergency and sunset clause, because that's defined in statute when we have an emergency and it can be called by the CEO and then has to go to the board for ratification.
That is correct. The declaration of emergencies and what constitutes an emergency, et cetera, is a matter of statutory law.
Right? And then mandate linguistic rights. We have threshold languages. It's 5%, and I think we have included Spanish, Chinese, and Tagalog. They actually lowered it 4% because Tagalog was a little short. So we've got the threshold language definition in ordinance.
So that's what would be discussed at the committee level. If the group decides to go forward, then those are exactly the type of things the committee would study.
Okay.
Madam Chair, so just so that I have it clear, it wouldn't be 6 subcommittees.
No,
It would be 2. One studies 4 and the other studies 2.
no. So
No, I think
item
we had
10 is a subcommittee studies those first four
Right.
items.
And then the other two are by another committee?
Yes.
Okay, so two subcommittees.
Madam Chair, if I may, I just want to make sure that the record's clear on what's actually being moved. The number one on page 5 very closely mirrors the language that this committee has already approved as number 3. I understood that one to be a restatement of the supervisor identified issue.
I think that is agreed, yeah.
Okay, so then we're actually taking off the board governance review. Okay, so we're gonna take that off. So now we're leaving the row officer consolidation. Do we want to leave the definition of emergency since it's already called out somewhere?
I'm fine with it being left off. I'm also like, I think part of the consideration would be other things within the language that the committee would find appropriate as well, the subcommittee.
So within the language of,
The charter. So I think I'm fine leaving that off and then we can do the other two.
so the row officer consolidation and the language access.
Correct.
So we're going to take out emergency. So now,
Madam Chair,
yes, go ahead. No,
I'm wondering if the representative from District 2 would consider a friendly amendment or addition for the row officer for consideration of what basic knowledge and skills the tax treasurer, collector, or other elected offices should have.
Yes, I would.
okay, so that's the amendment. Who seconded this one?
You did.
I did. Oh, that's just really. Okay, folks, it's 8:23, so here you have it. Thank you, Kim. So I'm good with that. So, okay, so now we're down to row officer consolidation and language access and equity that would be studied by a committee if we vote to move this forward.
Correct.
So now I'll call the vote.
Tom Adams,
Yes.
Vo Amive,
Yes.
Lillian Perez Avila,
Yes.
Karen Chapman,
Yes.
Eddie Flores,
Yes.
Jacqueline Faust,
Yes.
Roseanne Faust,
Yes.
Lynette Garcia. Lynette? Okay. Mark Hayslip? Nathan Healy is absent. Dana Johnson?
Yes.
Daniela Jonatu?
Yes.
Jim Lawrence?
Yes.
Julie Lind?
Yes.
Monica Miha?
Yes.
Ileana Rodriguez?
Yes.
George Smith?
Yes.
Kathleen Wheeler? Yes. Kimberly Wu?
Few opportunities that we can.
Yes.
Okay, we got 17.
So-
Especially when we get into the really
So
thick
that's
of it.
language access and
Having these
equity and
sessions
row officer
face-to-face,
consolidation. Okay,
um,
so we are moving on to item number 11, which combines Human Rights Commission and Environmental Bill of Rights. Again, this may end up being, if the group decides to study it, it may end up being it will end up being two separate charter amendments, but
I think also the Environmental Bill of Rights could probably ladder up into Karen's as well. So we could just consider the Human Rights Commission.
okay, so we're gonna take out the Environmental Bill of Rights because that'll move to Karen Chapman's recommendations. So now we just have codify a Human Rights and Equity Commission. Okay, so I need a motion and a second.
Almost.
I'll second.
Okay, so I'll take Monica as the second, if that's okay, Lillian. Thank you. So no comments, let's go to a vote.
Tom Adams?
Yes.
Vo Amive?
Yes.
Lillian Perez Avila?
Yes.
Karen Chapman?
Yes.
Eddie Flores?
Yes.
Jacqueline Faust?
Yes.
Roseanne Faust?
Yes.
Lynette Garcia?
Yes.
Mark Hayslip? Nathan Healy is absent. Dana Johnson?
Yes.
Daniela Jonatu?
No.
Jim Lawrence?
Yes.
Julie Lind?
Yes.
Monica Miha,
Yes.
Ileana Rodriguez,
Yes.
George Smith, Kathleen Wheeler,
Yes.
Kimberly Wu.
Yes.
All right, we got 17.
Okay, so codify a Human Rights and Equity Commission. There we go. So we are on to number 12, which is include in the charter specificity regarding the Charter Review Committee framework and process. So do we have
Motions.
Lillian motions? I will second. Any comments?
I have a comment, just I think a point of clarity. Is this just to make sure I understand it correctly, is suggesting to create an additional section of the charter that will specify how to charter review?
I mean, oh, sorry, yeah. So in item 801, because that's what it read in the charter, we have we need to create the chapter that the board shall combine. This will just give us the timeline, that Brian has presenting on the last meeting and this meeting. Is just to be right on the charter, so we know, and the next charter will know what is coming, like the timeline, how many meetings we're gonna hold, what is the process during the meetings, how what happen when the subcommittees, all that details basically. So we will have the map road for future charters review committees.
I guess my question, just to be a little more clear, is to what end? Is it to have a better timeline so that we're not so rushed? Or is it to just have a clarity as to how to really review this?
I mean, I can apply to both, because if we have a clear timeline and we know that this review process takes or needs at least 6 months, and that's some details that we can discuss if pass, of course, to the subcommittee, we will have more time and also more clarity for us and also for the public in general.
So I see a hand up, Daniela.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with this. I think today was a very, important the presentation that we got from the attorney that we have present. I'm sorry, I don't have the names in my head. It's 8:30 at night. So, and also this will give us a place to add any extra documentation from all charters reviews. So when we are considering any potential ideas to bring to the board, it can be written in there also, like a small resume of what the other charters did before, so we can get some history on what's going on. So I agree.
Thank you, Daniela. Eddie?
Madam Chair, I think this is an administrative item, frankly. I think this is very granular. I think this could be directed out of the county executive's office in terms of providing further guidance, and even legal counsel's office. We don't know what's going to be like in 8 years. And for example, tonight we went up to 17. We can't establish a precedent and a template for something. It's very fluid. And I think we should leave it again to the county executive to guide. And also in the application that we all filled out, or some of us we filled out, I don't know if the other appointees did, it was specified the time commitment and the timeline for this process. So I think if it warrants additional framing and additional details, I think that's just an administrative add-on.
So any other comments?
I'm very much in favor of the policy, but I don't believe the charter has the ability to dictate budget items and the dedication and appropriation of funds. And so I'm going to say no on this.
So I also feel this is an important issue. It's just putting it actually into the charter. I would love to have this go to the county executive, to the board of supervisors with this robust discussion in terms of for the next process, 8 years down the road. Please make it clear I also am happy to go on the record, having guidelines coming into this meeting from the board, as has been the previous two charter reviews, would be helpful, not just leaving the process open. It is challenging. So I appreciate, Lillian, what you're trying to do. I'm not going to vote to move it forward, but I will work with you on offline to get some tighter policies and procedures around this. So, but I think if we go to a vote now, Kim.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tom Adams? Vo Amive?
No.
Lillian Perez Avila?
Yes.
Karen Chapman?
Yes.
Eddie Flores?
No.
Jacqueline Faust?
Yes.
Roseanne Faust?
No.
Lynette Garcia?
Yes.
Mark Haslew?
No.
Nathan Healy is absent. Dana Johnson?
No.
Daniela Jonitude?
Yes.
Jim Lawrence? Julie Lind?
No.
Monica Mija?
No.
Ileana Rodriguez?
No.
George Smith? Kathleen Wheeler?
No.
Kimberly Wu?
No.
Only 5 does not go forward.
Thank you. Okay, we are moving on to item number 13. So this was recommended by committee member Dana Johnson. Review funding allocation to provide dedicated funding for community centers serving the most vulnerable marginalized community. So I need a motion and a second on this.
I motion.
Thank you, Dana. We have a second. I will second this. Any comments on this?
I would just comment that I'm hesitant to hamstring the board on any specific allocations, and I don't know whether or not the Charter Review Committee has the authority to do that.
Brian?
So I will just reiterate that I do think it's rare for a charter to earmark specific funds for specific purposes. As committee member Chapman pointed out, and I was able to confirm, the Santa Clara County Charter does have a designated fund for park services. Based on my review of charters, I do think that that's unusual, I would say. And I'll leave it at that.
I have a question
Yes,
and
please.
kind of like a suggestion. I think that we're gonna discuss the Codified Human Rights and Equity Commission. That maybe this, I mean, not about the budget, but the representation. We can also under the Rights and Equity Commission do the initiatives.
So that would be something to consider, is moving the discussion, but this is specifically related to funding, Dana, and I think we should probably vote on this, and then depending on where it lands, see, again, each committee and each issue that's discussed, if there's something that's come up in our discussion, I would encourage every committee to take that into consideration. So we'll go ahead and vote.
Tom Adams? Vo Amive?
Yes.
Lillian Perez Avila?
No.
Karen Chapman?
Yes.
Eddie Flores?
No.
Jacqueline Faust?
No.
Roseanne Faust?
No.
Lynette Garcia?
Yes.
Mark Haslew?
No.
Nathan Healy is absent. Dana Johnson?
Yes.
Daniela Jonitude?
No.
Jim Lawrence?
No.
Julie Lind?
No.
Monica Mija?
Yes.
Ileana Rodriguez?
No.
George Smith? Kathleen Wheeler?
No.
Kimberly Wu?
Yes.
6 does not pass.
Thank you. We are moving on to item number 14, which is adapt non-discrimination and gender identity protections. So I'm going to ask for a motion and a second.
I motion.
I second.
Okay, and Jacqueline or George? Jacqueline seconded it. So any additional comments on this one? So to adopt a non-discrimination and gender identity protection.
Uh,
And this- Right.
Thank you. Sorry, Madam Chair. I just wanted to hear again from legal if this is something that pertains to the charter.
So again, there is, the county does have anti-discrimination ordinances and policies that address a wide variety of matters, including the county's own employment practices, the county's contracting procedures, and all of those exist sub-charter. And I don't have, I haven't been able to pull up the policy. I can't give a detailed account of what each of those policies does, but as a general statement, there is a body of local law, anti-discrimination regulations, and they do exist below the level of the.
Thank you. And I think we also hold a commission on that end on the county, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes, Eddie, Jim, I think had a comment.
No, I was gonna say that essentially this is in all the policy and procedures of the county and the state and everyone. So we're really just repeating ourselves at this point.
Eddie?
Thank you, Jim. I concur on that. I also want to emphasize that the county already does proclamations and resolutions highlighting a lot of the verbiage on this. I want to remind my colleagues on this committee that some of this, the charter doesn't oversee or govern over cities, right? So even though we're thinking at our local community, our neighborhoods, our district, this is the charter. This is the like we've said already, the Constitution for the Board of Supervisors. If you want to work on many of these, and I applaud the author for moving this and the intention and the sentiment behind it, work with your city councils and your mayors. This is important work that could be addressed there, but for the purposes of redundancy, I think we should opt not to.
Yes, Tom.
I'm sure that there are provisions in a lot of the county's documents and provisions that address this issue, but I have to say that I am horrified by the way gender identity is used in our politics. It's just beyond gross. And I think it's important for people to stand up against that tide and try to protect these marginalized classes. And to do so in a non-discrimination clause in the charter is an appropriate thing to do, to reach out and show beyond our other policies that this is something that we think is important and that we have to stand up for it. So I'm going to vote yes on it.
Thank you, Tom. I see Dana has her hand up.
So I just wanted to bring to the space that it was brought up that there's LGBTQ plus commission. It's still challenging for the commission, who is a commission of the county, to even get clauses as this passed. I mean, I think if we're looking at it on more of a macro level, yeah, you see it there. But is it moving into action and happening in county level? Unfortunately, it's not. And so you're correct. We can have all the proclamations and the resolutions. That still doesn't mean that there's protection. And it's not. And I'm going to just be transparent and speak on what I know is happening, being that I am in that commission. It's not. And so I'm probably, even if it doesn't pass, I'm going to try to figure out with a proposal moving forward to still bring this up, because it's very important. And to limit it to just say the LGBTQ commission will be handling that, it's not actually, it doesn't work that way. So I do believe that we should be looking into that as a charter, especially if we're saying this again over a period of 8 years. If we're looking at where we are right now, then I kind of see things may get worse, and it would be nice for the community to have protection.
Thank you, Dana. Eddie had his hand up, then Lilium, and Brian, do you want to, were you going to say something?
I do have some additional. There. I just wanted to confirm that we did pull up the equal employment opportunity policy of the county. Sexual orientation, gender expression, gender identity are all protected classes under the county's EEO policy. I just wanted to clarify that as in addition to being protected classes under state law and sexual orientation.
Thank you, Brian. So Eddie and Lillian.
Yeah, Brian, can you clarify for this committee? Each Board of Supervisors member can also bring a amendment to the charter any election year. Is that correct?
Yes, I would just clarify that by saying they could bring it to the board for board approval. Yes.
Right. So
it doesn't have to come through the.
This is not the only one, and if it doesn't, and I'll keep on repeating, maybe Madam Chair, we should keep on reminding ourselves that even after they come back from committee, if it doesn't make it, right, as a recommendation, perhaps you can work directly with one of the Board of Supervisors to move that special, issue forward.
Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate that. Lillian?
Yeah, I was going to make a similar comment and also like with Councilmember Tom, I agree 100% with that. But then in this no discriminatory, right, I would also like to add the based in race because that's something that also we're facing right now. So I will be voting no because I think that we already have that. But just it doesn't mean that I don't agree with what is happening around.
Thank you, Lillian. All right, I'm not seeing any other hands up, so we are going to.
I have a clarifying question.
Sure,
Sorry.
Monica. No.
I'm so sorry. I know it's late, but I just want to make sure that I'm clear on what it's being proposed. We're proposing a change in the language that's intended to have enforceable protections beyond state law and county. Just so I'm clear, is that what's being proposed, and how enforceable is that language if we are able to put that in the charter? I just want to know if it's like I know that the county has like safeguards around like hiring policies and things like that, but are we thinking more broadly as in like the citizens that live in this county as opposed to like who is employed by the county? I guess this question would be directly to Dana.
I'm looking at it from the folks that are living as well as the folks that are working. And that's two different things because there is folks that are working for the county that aren't getting those same protections, unfortunately. Even though it was shared that it's there, it's not happening.
So Brian, do you want to add to that? Or you've already said.
I will, in response to the question, in terms of, it was framed as going beyond state law. I just want to clarify that discrimination in housing, employment, public services on the basis of gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation is unlawful under state law. So there is state protections for those protected categories, and so as a practical matter, what's being proposed is not would not go beyond what's in state law because state law already prohibits that form of discrimination.
Okay, we're going to call for the vote.
Tom Adams,
Yes.
Vo Amave,
Yes.
Lillian Perez Avila,
No.
Karen Chapman,
Yes.
Eddie Flores,
No.
Jacqueline Faust,
Yes.
Roseanne Faust,
Yes.
Lynette Garcia,
Yes.
Mark Haslew, Nathan Healy is absent, Dana Johnson,
Yes.
Daniela Jonatu,
No.
Jim Lawrence, Julie Lind,
No.
Monica Mija,
Yes.
Ileana Rodriguez,
No.
George Smith, Kathleen Wheeler,
No.
Kimberly Wu.
Yes.
We have 9.
It's tied.
With 9?
Yes, so,
You said 10.
yeah, 10, I'm sorry. Gotta be 10.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm having trouble counting at this point. Okay, so it did not pass.
Did not.
Okay. All right. So now we're moving on to 15, 16, and 17. If everyone can hang in here for a few more minutes so we can get through these, I would greatly appreciate it. So this is Karen Chapman, and this is add language to be determined to require the county to consider environmental impacts in its decision-making. Language could include, for example, building resilience for sea level rise. This is to build specificity into the charter. So we have a motion. Karen? I will second. Any discussion on this? Kathleen?
Karen, where explicitly in the charter are you thinking that language would be added?
Microphone, please.
Obviously, it would be up to the people studying this, but, it would make sense possibly to put it in the finance section. Following, encouraging the county employees to buy county products.
Okay, thanks.
Madam Chair,
I'm not sure that there's anything here that isn't included in CEQA or the resolutions that have been passed concerning the one shoreline. So I think it's well intentioned, and I'm very much in favor of the concept, but I think it's already covered.
I think the idea would be to have it, since it's in the charter, that it underscores the significance of the county viewing the environment as important. And it sends a message to all the employees of the county that it's something that they can think about when they're in discussions and when they're making decisions. That Mother Earth matters.
Thank you, Karen.
I was gonna say, out of respect, out of the 7 members that are online that did not get a chance to see the wording. Not sure if we want to postpone it, or at least they should be able to read it.
Yeah, Daniela?
Yes, I was actually planning to abstain using the fact that I don't have enough information about it. So I'm so sorry. It's important, but I don't have substance to vote on it.
Okay, so what I'm going to suggest then, based on that, is 15, 16, and George, we'll need you to write something up for veterans healthcare because that's 17. Those 3 items we will bring back at our next meeting to discuss. And I'm really going to ask that those items be submitted so that we can get them out to the committee. So that will be the first thing that we target at our next meeting. But how does that sound to everybody before I make a unilateral decision? Is that okay?
Good, thank you.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
great. So I want to go back because I want to make sure we all know what we're going to study. And we are studying number 1 on the Board of Supervisors and number 3. So 1 and 3. Then we are studying the League of Women Voters recommendation for independent district lines. So that's number 3. We are discussing row officer consolidation and language access equity. That's number 4. Number 5 is a Human Rights Commission.
I think that's the last one.
Yeah, that's
And that is it. So.
Madam
we-
Chair?
Yes.
And I think we missed, I had the friendly amendment to District Two's representative in terms of under the row officer.
Yes.
Just reviewing whether or not there should be basic skills, knowledge for some of the elected positions.
Yes, and that will definitely be included for the committee. So we have 5 committees right now. So Brian, how would you suggest? So I need chairs of the 5 committees. So who would like to be, or I'll start assigning. Just kidding. Okay, so I'm going to suggest that the person who brought the motion, like Kathleen, you chair that committee. I can knock some of these out. Jackie, you chair that one, and so that's 2 of the committees. So I need a chair for the human rights, because Jackie brought that one. I mean, she can serve as chair of 2 committees if she wants to, or we can pass this, or Eliana, do you?
Or I volunteer to distribute, but if anybody
Monica,
else, but
will you chair the human
I will
rights?
chair. Yes.
Okay, awesome. You're chairing the human rights. Who would like to chair the number 1, section 415 of the charter to be amended to further board, specify board procedures? Ileana?
I'm happy to volunteer for that one.
Yes, great. And then who would like to chair the board governance and practices? Eddie?
Daniela, I think she.
Okay, unless somebody had their hand up online. Anybody online? Or can I assign Eddie to chair that one? Okay, so we got our 5.
But go ahead, take him, take him.
Okay, so Eddie will chair that one. Now, can each of the committee members kind of say which of the committees they'd like to serve on? I need everyone, I think, serving on at least 2. Am I doing the math right, or 1? Let's go with 1 first. Can we go like your top preference? So Daniela, your top preference to serve on?
I have a question, Madam Chair. So there is, if we're gonna table the other 3, how do we know if we want to serve on those? And then we assign ourselves right now. So my proposal.
So we've got to start the work somewhere. So you know, with those other 3 proposals, just keep it in mind. If you are married to one of those 3, then I'd say I want to wait. But if we can get some working groups, because the committee chairs will each work with the members of their committee to set up what they need and go, so we can at least get some things going.
I'll put myself then with Eddie.
Okay, so Daniela wants to be on, I need to name these, the governance process.
Number 3.
Committee, number 3.
I would like to be in the first one, whether section 415 the county charter should be amended to first by board of procedures.
Okay, Lillian wants to be on
Thank you.
415.
Oh, number 1?
Rebecca.
Vacancy, how to fix vacancies. I'm going to go to those online because you, Dana, which one do you want to serve on?
Human Rights Commission.
Okay, Human Rights. Kimberly?
Sorry, just for a process, is it okay if you can repeat each of those out loud just one more time?
Sure. So 1 is how to fill vacancies. 2 is Board of Supervisors governance process. 3 is district lines for supervisorial districts. The other is charter language around row officer consolidation and language access, and the other is Human Rights Commission. Those are the 5. Okay. So Julie, do you have one you'd like to serve?
Appointment procedures.
Board governance, so Eddie's? No,
No, Ileana's.
Ileana's. Okay, Ileana's, got it. Daniela already picked. Lynette, Monica, Vo.
Number 2, I think. Just, yeah, the second one that you mentioned.
So that would be the policies and procedures.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So that's Lynette. Kimberly?
Human Rights Commission, please.
Human Rights, thank you, Kimberly. Vo?
I can join Eddie's subcommittee.
Okay, so Eddie's committee. Monica, you're chairing a committee already, so we're gonna keep you where you're chairing. George, God, I love you, George. Haven't figured that one out yet, but we'll get to it. Tom?
I'm with George. I'll fill in wherever.
Okay. Jackie's chairing. Mark? Okay, great. Thank you for saying 2. So governance and redistricting. Jim? Okay, Jim, so where would you like me to put you?
No, who's got district lines?
Kathleen.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Karen? Hold on.
I'm volunteering to chair the environment. That motion passes. I'm also interested in district line. I'd like to help with that. And then since our youth commissioner, Nathan Healy's absent, I'm hoping that he'd be interested in joining the environment committee to talk about climate change.
Okay, so we'll put you on district line for now and then hold.
Yeah.
William, you're already on. Yes, you already signed up human
Vacancy.
vacancy.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Vacancy.
I'm like, you're already chairing, you're chairing, Eddie's chairing. That just leaves me. I'm gonna think about it for right now, simply because we need to assign George and Tom. Do you have any preferences? What committees don't we have a lot of people on, if you can?
I think your row officer one.
The row language and language access. Seems like we only have.
Why don't you wait and see how many subcommittees we have after our next action? And just, I'm happy to be filled in wherever there's a vacancy.
Okay. We'll do that with the 3 of us. How's that? We'll fill in where we need to. I'm losing people tonight, right now. I know I pushed it, but I felt it was important.
Madam Chair, will we get, just to make sure we didn't miss anyone on committees, get a list
Yes.
later?
Yes.
Who volunteered for what? Thank you.
Rocio, can you say what's going to happen after this meeting?
So thank you, Liana. Thank you, Chair. Yes, we will put together a summary of the committees as well as who's chairing them and then who's volunteered to participate. And we'll get that out to you, and we could do that this week. And thereafter, you should also have information on all the committee members' contact. And so please feel free to start any of that work, committee work. And also, if you need any assistance in terms of, let's say you determine that you would like to meet with a county officer or a county employee, staff member, please feel free to reach out to me and we can assist in coordinating that. And I would ask that the chair do that. And that would be also, if you want to meet with anyone, we can assist with that. And then also, if you need any information, I'm happy to help coordinate that. And then once again, I would ask that the chair or you designate one person that reaches out directly.
So all of this will be in the email to you, kind of going over what Rocio just outlined. George?
Yes, Madam Chair, I just want to make sure that everyone knew that my phone number has been changed and the one that was out tonight was the correct one. It's the one that ends in 5678. So that's my cell phone. So in case anybody's texting or anything, the other one's not.
Thank you so much for mentioning that. And so it should be the document that indicates that it was updated with today's date.
So, and we will attach this and send it out. Please check your contact information, make sure it's on there. George and Tom and I, if you see anything that is, if any of us, there's other committees you want to serve on, please let the chair know. So let's come into the meeting on the 17th. Yes, sort of as a first line of here's how we organize, here's what's going forward. We'll bring the other 3 items. Now, here's where I'm going to say, if anyone has any additional items that they want to bring forward, I would strongly encourage you to get them in before February 17th. So we can actually, unless there's an emergency and all hell breaks loose, which I'm not saying that it won't, I'd like to get everything on the table at the 17th so we know what we're studying, because we have 5 subcommittees right now. I want to thank you for your time and attention. We've gone an hour over. This has been a great evening of democracy in action. Thank you, and thank you for your patience as we work through this. Have a good night. Adjourned.
And please take some food.